Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was a servant class, Grand Savior, summoned in the Holy Grail or Naruto x Saber, Fate/Stay Night. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The unexpected savior. The sound of Hana Fujimoto's ragged breathing echoed off the basement walls. Blood dripped from a gash on her forearm, spattering onto the concrete floor where she'd hastily drawn a summoning circle using chalk, blood, and desperation. The circle wasn't perfect, nothing like the meticulous designs her family had used for generations, but perfection wasn't a luxury she could afford right now. Something moved in the shadows beyond the basement's single flickering light bulb. "I know you're there," Hana called out, her voice surprisingly steady despite her trembling hands. "You've been toying with me for 3 days. Either kill me or let me finish." A chuckle emerged from the darkness, followed by the slender silhouette of Assassin, a servant with paper-white skin and elongated limbs that moved with uncanny, spider-like grace. "Your family failed to summon a servant before I eliminated them," Assassin said, voice like silk sliding over gravel. "What makes you think you'll succeed where they failed, little Magus?" Hana's fingers tightened around the ancient scroll she'd stolen from her family's archive before fleeing their estate. The scroll contained a summoning ritual she'd never seen before, one her grandfather had sealed away with warnings never to use it. "Because I'm not trying to win this war," Hana said, slicing her palm with a ceremonial dagger. "I just want to survive it." Her blood dripped onto the circle, which began to glow with an intensity that forced even Assassin to step back. The basement filled with swirling energy that wasn't the typical blue of servant summoning, but a vibrant golden orange that pulsed like a heartbeat. "What is this?" Assassin hissed, drawing twin daggers from beneath his cloak. Hana ignored him, focusing on the words of the ritual, different from the standard incantation. Her voice grew stronger with each line, "Not for victory, not for power, but for salvation I call. From beyond the veil of worlds, I summon the one who saves, the one who changes fate itself. Appear before me, Grand Savior." The circle exploded with light, knocking Hana backward. Assassin lunged forward, daggers aimed at her throat, only to be stopped mid-air by a hand that materialized from the golden energy, catching his wrist with casual strength. As the light faded, a young man stood in the circle. Spiky blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and strange whisker-like marks on his cheeks. He wore an orange and black jacket, and a headband with a spiral leaf symbol. But what drew Hana's attention most was the powerful aura radiating from him, warm and fierce simultaneously. "You know, attacking someone who can't defend themselves is pretty low," the newcomer said, tightening his grip on Assassin's wrist until the servant dropped one dagger with a pained hiss. Assassin twisted away, vanishing into shadow before reappearing at the far side of the basement. "Impossible. What class are you? You're no traditional servant." The blond man scratched his head, looking genuinely confused. "Class? Servant? I don't know what you're talking about." He turned to Hana. "Hey, where am I? Last thing I remember, I was in Konoha doing paperwork." "Tons of paperwork." He grimaced at the memory. Before Hana could answer, Assassin attacked again, this time throwing poison needles that sliced through the air. The blond man moved with blinding speed, not just dodging but catching several needles between his fingers. Attacking while people are talking? That's even worse, believe it. In a blur of orange, he closed the distance to Assassin. No elaborate stance, no announced technique, just pure, efficient combat. A palm strike too. The chest sent Assassin crashing into the wall, cratering the concrete. Assassin melted into shadow again, voice echoing around them. "A new class, interesting. This changes things. We'll meet again." When the basement fell silent, the blond man turned back to Hana, who was staring at him with wide eyes. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki," he said with a grin that somehow brightened the dim basement. "And you look like you could use some help." Hana nodded weakly, then collapsed from blood loss and magical exhaustion. Naruto caught her before she hit the floor. Hey! Stay with me. He closed his eyes momentarily, golden energy surrounding his hands as he placed them over her wounded arm and palm. The bleeding stopped almost immediately, wounds closing under his touch. You're not from this world, Hana whispered as consciousness returned. I summoned you with forbidden magic. Yeah, I figured something weird was happening. This doesn't look like any jutsu I know. Naruto helped her to sit up. So what's the deal? Why am I here? Hana took a shaky breath. You're a servant, a heroic spirit summoned to fight in the Holy Grail War. 7 mages summoned 7 heroes to battle for a wish-granting relic. She paused, looking at the strange command seals that had appeared on her hand, not the usual 3 symbols but a complex spiral pattern. But you're not one of the 7 standard classes. You're something else. Holy Grail War. Fighting for wishes. Naruto frowned. That sounds like a mess waiting to happen. It already is a mess, Hana said, attempting to stand. My family, her voice broke. Naruto helped her up, his expression softening. I get it. You're in danger. Let's get somewhere safe first, then you can explain everything. Hana nodded, pointing to a backpack in the corner. Everything I could salvage is in there. As Naruto grabbed the pack, the basement door splintered open. A woman with long black hair and a red coat stood at the top of the stairs, alongside a tall man in crimson armor. I sensed an impossible magical signature, the woman said, eyes narrowing. You're not one of the 7. Yeah, I've been hearing that a lot in the 5 minutes I've been here, Naruto replied, positioning himself between the newcomers and Hana. The man in red armor materialized a black bow in his hands. Rin, this could be a trap. That energy signature isn't like anything I've encountered. I'm not your enemy, Naruto said, but if you're here to hurt this girl, you'll have to go through me first. The woman, Rin, studied him with calculating eyes. We're not here to attack unprovoked. I'm simply investigating an anomaly. What class are you? My master called me Grand Savior, Naruto answered, the title feeling strange on his tongue. Look, we're leaving. Either help us or get out of our way. Grand Savior. Rin exchanged glances with her servant. That's not possible. The Grail system only accommodates 7 classes. Apparently not this time, Naruto said, helping Hana toward the stairs. She needs food and rest. Your questions can wait. The red-armored servant didn't lower his bow. We can't just let an unknown factor wander freely in this war. Naruto's eyes flashed, the blue momentarily shifting to an amber color with slit pupils. I'm not asking permission. Tension crackled in the air until Rin finally sighed. Stand down, Archer. They're right, the girl needs medical attention. She addressed Naruto. This doesn't make us allies, but I'm curious enough about your existence to postpone any conflict. Naruto nodded, guiding Hana past them. Once outside, he realized they were in an abandoned industrial district. Where to? He asked Hana. I have a safe house, she replied weakly. 3 blocks east, then north along the canal. Naruto scanned their surroundings, then surprised her by creating a perfect copy of himself in a puff of smoke. A shadow clone, he explained at her startled expression. He'll lead those 2 on a false trail while we get you somewhere safe. The clone nodded, then dashed off in the opposite direction. Rin and Archer emerged from the building moments later, immediately spotting the clone and pursuing. That should buy us some time, Naruto said, lifting Hana onto his back. Hold tight. He leapt to the nearest rooftop in a single bound, moving with a speed that made the city blur around them. 10 minutes later, they arrived at a small apartment above a closed bookshop. Inside, Naruto helped Hana to a worn couch. The apartment was sparsely furnished but contained numerous books on magic and several protective charms. You need to eat something, Naruto said, rummaging through the kitchenette. He found some instant ramen, which brought a smile to his face. This'll work. While waiting for the water to boil, he returned to Hana. So, this Holy Grail war. Tell me everything. Between sips of broth, Hana explained the basics: 7 masters, 7 servants of different classes, fighting to the death for the Holy Grail that grants any wish. She detailed the standard classes: Saber, Archer, Lancer, Rider, Caster, Assassin, and Berserker. The ritual I used was different, she admitted. My grandfather called it the Savior summoning. It was sealed away because it supposedly disrupts the balance of the war. It can only be performed by someone with pure intent, not seeking victory but salvation. And that's what you want? Salvation? Naruto asked. Hana nodded, clutching her cup. 3 days ago, that assassin killed my parents. They were preparing to summon a servant when he attacked. I barely escaped with my life and this scroll. She gestured to the ancient parchment. I don't want to win the Grail. I just wanted someone who could protect me. Naruto's expression softened. I understand losing family. And I've never turned away someone who needed help. He grinned. So I guess I'm your servant now, huh? It seems so. These command seals prove it. Hana showed the spiral pattern on her hand. Normally, masters have 3 absolute commands they can use on their servants. I'm not sure how many I have with this unusual summoning. Well, don't worry about commanding me, Naruto said. If you need help, just ask. That's my ninja way, I don't go back on my word. A sudden crash from outside interrupted them. Naruto was on his feet instantly. Stay here, he ordered, moving to the window. In the street below, a young man with red hair was running from something massive, a hulking gray figure that moved with inhuman speed despite its size. That's Berserker, Hana whispered, joining him at the window. The Mad Warrior class. And that boy, that must be another master. Naruto was already opening the window. I can't just watch someone get killed. Wait. Hana grabbed his sleeve. That's not how the war works. Servants fight servants. Masters fight masters. I don't care how it works, Naruto replied. I'm not here to follow rules I never agreed to. I'm here because you needed help, and now someone else does too. Before she could protest further, he leapt from the window, landing in the street between the fleeing boy and the monstrous Berserker. The red-haired boy skidded to a stop, eyes widening. Who, get behind me, Naruto interrupted, facing Berserker. The giant servant roared, muscles bulging beneath stone-like skin. He wielded what appeared to be a massive stone sword, or perhaps it was simply a slab of rock carved roughly into a blade. You must be new here, Naruto said to the boy as Berserker approached. I'm Naruto. Shiro Amiya, the boy managed between heavy breaths. You're a servant. But Saber is, a blonde woman in blue armor and a silver breastplate rounded the corner, sword raised. Shiro. I told you to run directly home, not into another district. Sorry, Saber, Shiro replied. I got turned around. Saber took up position beside Naruto, eyeing him suspiciously. You're not one of the 7 classes. What are you? Grand Savior, apparently, Naruto replied, never taking his eyes off Berserker. Look, we can compare notes later. Right now, Big and Ugly seems impatient. As if on cue. Berserker charged with surprising speed for his size, stone sword raised high. Naruto didn't back down. He formed a hand sign, and suddenly 4 perfect copies of himself appeared, surrounding Berserker from different angles. Each clone attacked simultaneously, landing blows that would have felled a normal opponent but merely staggered the Mad Warrior. Saber blinked in surprise before recovering her composure and joining the fray, her invisible sword clashing against Berserker's weapon with showers of sparks. Her technique was flawless, each strike precise and powerful, flowing into the next with practiced grace. Naruto noticed her style immediately. Unlike his adaptable, unpredictable movements, Saber fought with the disciplined technique of a master swordsman. Despite their different approaches, they naturally fell into a complementary rhythm, Naruto's clones distracting and creating openings that Saber exploited with devastating strikes. Even so, Berserker seemed nearly invulnerable. Wounds healed almost as quickly as they were inflicted, and each mighty swing of his stone blade shattered the street beneath them. "He's not going down," Naruto called to Saber as they momentarily retreated to regroup. "Any ideas?" "Berserker possesses a noble phantasm that grants him multiple lives," Saber explained, breathing heavily. "We must kill him 12 times to truly defeat him." Naruto whistled. 12 lives? That's cheating. He created more shadow clones, this time forming a protective ring around Shiro. "Keep him safe," he ordered them before turning back to Saber. "I've got something that might work, but I need time to gather nature energy." Saber nodded, not fully understanding but recognizing a plan. "I shall give you the time you need." She charged forward again, drawing Berserker's attention with a flurry of attacks so fast her sword appeared as nothing but flashes of light. Her smaller size allowed her to dodge where Berserker could only power through, and each exchange left new wounds on the giant's body, wounds that healed almost immediately but still caused pain. Meanwhile, Naruto sat cross-legged, hands forming a unique seal as he closed his eyes. The air around him began to shimmer with invisible energy. From a nearby rooftop, Hana watched with fascination. This wasn't like any magecraft she knew. Her servant was pulling energy directly from his surroundings, absorbing it into himself. After 30 seconds, during which Saber was steadily driven back despite her skill, Naruto opened his eyes. The blue irises had transformed to a golden color, and red pigmentation surrounded his eyes like natural markings. "Sage mode," he murmured, standing up. Berserker had just sent Saber flying with a powerful swing when Naruto re-engaged, moving even faster than before. His first punch connected with Berserker's chest, and to everyone's shock, the giant was lifted off his feet and sent crashing through the wall of an abandoned warehouse. "That strength," Shiro gasped from behind the protection of the shadow clones. "It's on par with Berserker's." Naruto didn't give Berserker time to recover. He followed through the hole in the wall, the sounds of impact echoing as he landed blow after enhanced blow. When Berserker finally emerged, he was roaring in fury, but visibly damaged, wounds that weren't healing as quickly as before. Saber rejoined the battle, her invisible sword slicing through Berserker's defenses while Naruto attacked from another angle. Their coordination was uncanny for two who had just met, as if they instinctively understood each other's combat styles. "Together!" Naruto called out, forming a swirling blue sphere of energy in his palm. "Hit him with everything." Saber nodded, her sword beginning to glow with golden light as she prepared her noble phantasm. Berserker charged them, stone sword raised high. Rasengan. Naruto thrust the spiraling sphere forward just as Saber swung her now fully visible golden sword. Excalibur. The combined attack erupted in a blinding explosion of gold and blue energy that tore through Berserker and blasted a crater in the street. When the light faded, Berserker lay motionless, his body dissolving into particles of light. Naruto let out a breath, the sage markings fading from his face. "We've taken one of his lives," Saber interrupted, lowering her sword. "He will return when his master provides sufficient magical energy. For now, we should retreat." A slow clap echoed from the shadows, and they turned to see a white-haired girl standing nearby, red eyes glowing in the darkness. "Impressive teamwork," she said, voice eerily calm for a child her age. "But Berserker will return stronger. Next time, we won't be caught by surprise, strange servant." With that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Naruto moved to pursue, but Saber caught his arm. "Iliasviel von Einsborn. Her family is one of the founders of the Holy Grail War. We are in no condition to pursue her now." Naruto reluctantly nodded, then turned to check on Shiro, who was approaching with the shadow clone still hovering protectively around him. "You're injured," Naruto noted, seeing blood seeping through Shiro's shirt. "It's nothing," Shiro insisted, though his pale face suggested otherwise. Naruto dispersed his clones and placed a hand on Shiro's shoulder, golden energy flowing between them. The wound beneath his shirt began to close. "How are you doing that?" Shiro asked, amazed. "Servants shouldn't be able to heal masters other than their own. I've always been able to share my energy with others," Naruto explained with a shrug. "Back home, we call it chakra." Saber was watching him with intense curiosity. "You're unlike any servant I've encountered. Your class, Grand Savior, is not part of the traditional system." "Yeah, I'm getting that a lot," Naruto replied with a grin. "Look, my master is watching from that building." He pointed to where Hana stood at the window. "She's been through a lot. I think we should all talk somewhere safe." Shiro nodded. "My house has boundary fields for protection. You and your master are welcome there." Saber frowned. "Shiro, inviting other competitors into our base, they helped us," Shiro interrupted firmly. "And I want to understand what's happening. This war already doesn't make sense to me." After retrieving Hana, who was initially reluctant but ultimately curious, they made their way to Shiro's traditional Japanese home. Along the way, they remained vigilant for other servants, but the night was quiet following Berserker's defeat. At the Amiya residence, Shiro prepared tea while Saber maintained a watchful presence. When they were all seated around the table, introductions were properly made. "I'm Hana Fujimoto," Hana said quietly. "My family was killed by assassin 3 days ago. I used a forbidden ritual to summon Naruto as the Grand Savior class. I'm still figuring out what that means," Naruto added. "Where I come from, I'm the 7th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village, that's like the leader and protector of my home." "And I am Artoria Pendragon," Saber said formally. "Class Saber." Naruto's eyes widened. "Wait, Artoria Pendragon? As in King Arthur? But you're a woman." "Yes," Saber replied with a hint of defensiveness. "History often distorts the truth." "I was gonna say, younger than I expected," Naruto laughed. "But hey, I'm not one to judge. I've met plenty of powerful women in my time." The tension in Saber's shoulders eased slightly. Shiro placed fresh cups of tea before everyone. "I'm Shiro Amiya. Well, I wasn't supposed to be in this war at all. I summoned Saber by accident when Lancer attacked me." "You summoned a servant by accident?" Hana asked incredulously. "That's nearly impossible without proper preparation." Shiro scratched his head. "I know. It's a long story." As they shared information, a clearer picture emerged. This Holy Grail war was unusual in many ways. Shiro's accidental summoning, Hana's forbidden ritual, and reports of strange magical disturbances throughout the city all pointed to irregularities. "Something isn't right about this war," Hana concluded. "The appearance of a Grand Savior class should be impossible. The system was designed for 7 servants, 7 masters. Perhaps your ritual disrupted the balance," Saber suggested. Naruto shook his head. "Or maybe something was already wrong, and that's why her ritual worked in the first place." A thoughtful silence fell over the room until Shiro broke it. "Whether something's wrong or not, we have to deal with what's happening now. Berserker is incredibly powerful, and there are still other servants out there, including Assassin who targeted Hana's family. Not to mention that Archer guy and his master," Naruto added. "Though they didn't seem immediately hostile." "Rin Tosaka," Shiro confirmed. "She's a student at my school, actually. She's been helping me understand the basics of being a master." Saber raised an eyebrow at this but said nothing. "So what now?" Hana asked. "Traditionally, we should be enemies, but nothing about this is traditional," Naruto finished for her. He looked directly at Saber and Shiro. I was brought here to protect Hana, not to win some magical cup. If you're not her enemies, you're not mine. Shiro nodded firmly. I don't want to fight people who haven't done anything wrong. I entered this war to stop people from getting hurt, not to cause more suffering. Saber looked between them with a mixture of disbelief and reluctant admiration. Such idealism is rare in the Holy Grail War. Most masters and servants fight without hesitation for their wish. What about you? Naruto asked her directly. What's your wish, King of Knights? Something flickered in Saber's green eyes, surprise, perhaps, at his directness. I seek to save my kingdom. To undo my failures as a king. Naruto studied her for a long moment. You want to change the past. I want to prevent my kingdom's destruction, Saber corrected, a hint of defensiveness returning to her tone. Naruto mused, leaning back. Where I come from, we learn that trying to change the past often creates bigger problems. The hardest part of being a leader is accepting that you can't save everyone. Saber's expression hardened. You presume to lecture me on leadership? Not lecturing, Naruto replied with a disarming smile. Just sharing. I've made plenty of mistakes as Hokage. Still do. But looking forward has always worked better than looking back. Before Saber could respond, they all felt it, a wave of magical energy washing over the house. Boundary field, Shiro said, jumping to his feet. Someone's testing the defenses. They rushed outside to find a man in blue standing at the edge of the property. He held a crimson spear that radiated dangerous energy. Yo, the man called casually. Heard there was an interesting gathering happening here. Thought I'd check it out myself. Lancer, Saber identified him, materializing her armor and sword. Naruto stepped forward. You here to fight or talk? Lancer twirled his spear with fluid grace. Bit of both, maybe. My master's curious about the rumors, a new class appearing in the war. Figured I'd confirm it personally. His red eyes assessed Naruto with professional interest. You don't look like much, but that energy signature is something else. I get that a lot, Naruto replied with a shrug. First impressions can be deceiving. Lancer grinned, revealing sharp canines. True enough. Care to demonstrate what a Grand Savior can do? Before Naruto could answer, another presence made itself known, Archer, appearing on the roof of Shiro's house with his bow drawn. Stand down, Lancer, came Rin's voice as she walked up the road. We're not here to fight. Not tonight. Rin. Shiro blinked in surprise. What are you doing here? Following the most interesting development in this war, she replied, eyeing Naruto and Hana. I've been researching since our encounter earlier. The Grand Savior isn't just a new class, it's a theoretical class that was removed from the original Holy Grail design. This caught everyone's attention. Removed? Hana repeated. By whom? By the founding families, Rin explained. According to records I found in my family's archive, the original system included an 8th class as a failsafe. It was meant to be summoned only when the Grail itself was compromised. Lancer whistled. A failsafe servant? That's new. It's more than that, Rin continued. The Grand Savior was designed to have authority over the Grail itself, the power to purify or even destroy it if necessary. All eyes turned to Naruto, who scratched his head awkwardly. Don't look at me. I just got here. Whether you knew it or not, Rin said, your presence indicates something is very wrong with this Holy Grail war. My family helped design the system, and I won't ignore signs of its corruption. So you're proposing what, exactly? Saber asked, still not lowering her sword. An alliance of convenience, Rin replied. To investigate these anomalies before proceeding with the traditional war. I'm in, Shiro said immediately. Lancer shrugged. My master just wants information. Collaboration works for now. Naruto looked to Hana, who nodded hesitantly. All right, he agreed. But first, there's something I need to know. He turned to Rin. What exactly is the Holy Grail? Not what it does, what it is. Rin seemed taken aback by the question. It's a magical construct created by the three founding families to access the root, the source of all magic. Naruto shook his head. No, I mean, what is it physically? What are we actually fighting for? A silence fell over the group as they realized none of them had a concrete answer. The Grail materializes at the end of the war, Saber finally said. I've never seen its physical form. Then maybe that's where we start, Naruto suggested. Finding out what this Grail actually is before everyone keeps killing each other over it. From the shadows across the street, unnoticed by the gathering, a figure watched with interest. Daichi Shimada's eyes gleamed as he observed the unusual alliance forming before him. The unexpected appearance of the Grand Savior class was a complication, but not an insurmountable one. In fact, it might accelerate his plans. The failsafe returns, he murmured to himself. How appropriate. He clutched a vial of swirling black energy. Let's see if this savior can truly save anything when the time comes. With that, he melted back into the darkness, his presence undetected by even the powerful servants nearby. Back at Shiro's house, they had moved the discussion inside. Maps were spread across the table as they identified key locations, ley lines, previous battle sites, and unusual magical disturbances. There's definitely a pattern, Hana observed, marking points on the map. These energy fluctuations Rin detected are concentrated around the Ryuta temple and the old church. The church is supposed to be neutral ground, Rin explained. The overseer of the war resides there. Overseer? Naruto questioned. A mediator from the church who ensures the war follows certain rules, Saber clarified. Though his actual power to intervene is limited. Naruto frowned. So this whole thing, servants killing each other, masters dying, it's all sanctioned by someone? It's tradition, Rin said, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely comfortable with it either. The Holy Grail War has been conducted this way for centuries. That doesn't make it right, Shiro interjected, surprising even himself with his vehemence. Naruto nodded in agreement. Where I come from, we had a tradition of sending children into battle. We called it progress when we finally stopped doing it. Sometimes traditions need to change. Saber studied him with those intense green eyes. You speak as if changing the rules of the war is possible. Everything's possible, Naruto replied with absolute conviction. I've never accepted that some things can't be changed. That's my ninja way. For the first time, a hint of a smile touched Saber's lips. Your optimism is either admirable or foolish. Perhaps both. I've been called worse, Naruto grinned. They continued planning late into the night, eventually agreeing on a course of action. Rin and Archer would investigate the church, Lancer would scout the Ryuta temple, while Naruto, Hana, Shiro, and Saber would remain at the Amiya residence to consolidate their information and prepare. As the others departed, Shiro showed Hana to a guest room. Servants didn't technically need sleep, but both Naruto and Saber remained awake, keeping watch from the porch overlooking the garden. Your fighting style is unusual, Saber commented after a period of comfortable silence. Unpredictable, adaptable. You haven't had formal training with a specific weapon or school. Nope, Naruto confirmed. I learned from experience mostly. Lots of trial and error. But I'm guessing you trained with the best sword masters in Britain, huh? Saber nodded. From a young age, I was taught to wield Excalibur and lead armies. That must have been tough, Naruto mused. Taking on that responsibility so young. Something in his tone made Saber glance at him. You sound as if you understand. I became Hokage after working for it my whole life, Naruto explained, gazing up at the stars. But yeah, I know what it's like to have everyone depending on you. To make decisions that affect thousands of lives. And did you ever regret it? Saber asked, her voice unusually soft. Taking on that burden? Naruto considered the question carefully. The responsibility? Never. Some of my decisions. Sure. I'm only human. But I learned that dwelling on regrets just paralyzes you. He turned to look at her directly. The past is important because it shapes us, but living there doesn't help anyone, especially not the people counting on us now. Saber didn't respond immediately, her gaze distant. Perhaps it's different for you. Your reign presumably ended naturally. Mine ended in betrayal and the destruction of everything I built. Mine hasn't ended yet, actually, Naruto chuckled. I'm still Hokage back home. At least, I was when I got summoned here. His expression grew more serious. But I've faced betrayal too. The difference is, I had friends who helped me through it. Did you? The question clearly struck a nerve. Saber's posture stiffened. A king stands alone. That was the path I chose. That sounds lonely, Naruto said simply. And unnecessary. Unnecessary. There was a hint of sharpness in her voice now. Yeah, Naruto nodded. The strongest leaders I've known drew power from their bonds with others. Being close to people doesn't make you weak, it gives you more to fight for, more perspectives to consider when making tough choices. Before Saber could respond, they both sensed a disturbance, magical energy spiking somewhere in the city. They were on their feet instantly, alerting Shiro and Hana. Within minutes, all four were racing toward the source of the disruption, a downtown area where plumes of smoke were rising into the night sky. When they arrived, they found chaos. What appeared to be artificial servants, imperfect copies of the hero class, were attacking indiscriminately. They lacked the defined features of true servants but wielded similar abilities. What are these things? Shiro asked as they took cover behind a overturned truck. They're like servants, but, wrong, Hana observed. The magical signature is distorted. Naruto created several shadow clones to scout the area while Saber assessed the tactical situation. There are at least a dozen of them, but they seem weaker than true servants. They're still dangerous to civilians, Shiro pointed out, watching as the constructs destroyed buildings and vehicles. Naruto's clones returned with intel. There's something controlling them from the center of the district, some kind of magical array. We need to shut it down, Hana said. These constructs are drawing massive amounts of energy from somewhere. If they continue, they could cause a catastrophic magical discharge. Naruto nodded, formulating a plan. Shiro, stay with Hana and keep her safe. Saber and I will cut through to the control array. I should go with you, Shiro protested. No, Saber said firmly. Your safety is my priority, master. And Hana needs protection, Naruto added. These may be the same people who targeted her family. Reluctantly, Shiro agreed, and they split up, Naruto and Saber charging directly into the fray while Shiro led Hana to a safer vantage point where she could observe the magical workings. Naruto and Saber moved like they'd fought together for years. Where Saber was precise and powerful, Naruto was unpredictable and versatile. His shadow clones confused the enemy constructs, while Saber's swordsmanship cut through their defenses with methodical efficiency. You're pretty good at this teamwork thing for someone who stands alone, Naruto commented as they fought back-to-back against a wave of enemies. Saber couldn't suppress a small smile as she parried an attack. Perhaps I've learned a few things since my time as king. They pushed forward, steadily approaching the center where a pulsing magical circle generated the constructs. As they got closer, they spotted a figure standing within the array, a man in ornate robes, chanting in an ancient language. That must be the master behind this, Saber said as they took cover momentarily. Naruto studied the array. That circle looks similar to a summoning ritual, but it's been modified. He's creating these fake servants somehow. Such magic should be impossible, Saber replied. Creating even a flawed copy of a heroic spirit requires enormous power. Well, he's doing it somehow, Naruto observed. And we need to stop him before more of these things appear. They were about to advance when Archer appeared on a nearby rooftop, raining arrows down on the constructs with deadly accuracy. Took you long enough. Naruto called up to him. Archer didn't smile, but there was a hint of amusement in his voice. We had our own problems to deal with. Rin's circling around to disrupt the magical array. With Archer providing cover, Naruto and Saber made their final push toward the center. The robed man finally noticed their approach, abandoning his chant to face them directly. Ah, the anomaly arrives, he said, his voice unnaturally resonant. The Grand Savior himself. You know me? Naruto asked, instantly suspicious. I know what you represent, the man replied. A failsafe that should never have been triggered. My name is Daichi Shimada, and you are an unexpected variable in my calculations. What are you doing? Saber demanded, sword raised. These constructs are attacking innocent people. Daichi smiled coldly. Testing a theory. The Holy Grail War is such a limited application of a powerful system. I'm merely expanding its possibilities. By creating fake servants? Naruto asked. Prototypes, Daichi corrected. Soon, I'll perfect the process. Imagine an army of heroic spirits under one master's control. The possibilities are endless. And the cost? Saber challenged. The lives lost? Daichi shrugged. Progress requires sacrifice. That was enough for Naruto. He charged forward, only to be repelled by a powerful barrier surrounding Daichi. Not so simple, Daichi laughed. This array is powered by the ambient magical energy of the entire district. You cannot, his words were cut short as Rin appeared behind him, slapping a paper talisman onto the edge of the array. The magical circle flickered, its power destabilizing. You were saying? Rin smirked. Daichi's expression darkened. A temporary setback. He reached into his robe and withdrew a vial of swirling black energy. But I've collected what I came for. Before anyone could stop him, he shattered the vial at his feet. Black smoke engulfed him, and when it cleared, he was gone, along with the magical array. The remaining constructs began to dissolve without their power source. Naruto rushed to where Daichi had stood, examining the residual energy. What was that stuff? It felt wrong. Rin knelt beside him, her expression grim. Corrupted spiritual energy. He's been harvesting it from these constructs, and possibly from actual servants who have fallen in battle. For what purpose? Saber asked, joining them. I don't know, Rin admitted. But whatever he's planning, it can't be good for any of us, masters or servants. They regrouped with Shiro and Hana, sharing what they'd learned. As dawn broke over the city, they returned to the Amiya residence, each lost in thought about this new threat. This Daichi, Hana said as they gathered around the table again. He's not a normal master, is he? No, Rin confirmed. I've heard rumors of the Shimada family, magecraft researchers who were expelled from the Mages Association for ethical violations. They were supposed to have died out a generation ago. Well, they clearly didn't, Naruto observed. And now this guy is harvesting energy from servants and creating his own. This changes things, Shiro said firmly. The Holy Grail War is one thing, but someone manipulating the system itself, creating artificial servants and attacking civilians, that's something else entirely. Saber nodded in agreement. Our priority must be to stop Daichi Shimada before his experiments cause more harm. But we still don't know what he's ultimately planning, Rin pointed out. Or how it connects to the Holy Grail. Maybe. They're the same thing, Naruto suggested. Maybe whatever's wrong with the Grail, the reason I was summoned as this Grand Savior, is connected to what Daichi's doing. The room fell silent as they considered this possibility. If that's true, Hana said slowly, then the ritual I used didn't cause the anomaly, it responded to it. The Grand Savior was summoned because the Grail is already corrupted. And I'm supposed to fix it, somehow, Naruto concluded, leaning back with a sigh. No pressure or anything. Despite the gravity of the situation, Saber found herself smiling slightly at his irreverent tone. For someone tasked with saving a magical system you barely understand, you seem remarkably calm. Naruto grinned. Not my first impossible mission. Won't be my last. He looked around at the unlikely allies gathered in the room. Besides, I'm not doing it alone. As they continued planning their next steps, Naruto caught Saber watching him with a thoughtful expression. When their eyes met, she didn't look away as she might have earlier. Instead, she gave him a small nod, a gesture of growing respect between two leaders from very different worlds. Outside, the sun rose fully over Fuyuki City, illuminating a battlefield that was evolving beyond anything the founders of the Holy Grail War could have anticipated. And at the center of it all, a blonde-haired ninja from another world who had been summoned not just to fight, but to save. Chapter 2, Bonds Beyond Worlds. Focus, Hana. Feel the energy flowing through you, not just around you. Naruto sat cross-legged in the Amiya residence courtyard, facing Hana who mirrored his posture. Dawn had barely broken, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. They'd been at this for 2 hours already, while the others slept. Hana's face scrunched with concentration, sweat beading on her forehead. A small leaf rested on her palm, barely flickering with the faint blue glow of her magical energy. I can't, she finally sighed, shoulders slumping as the leaf stopped glowing. Magecraft doesn't work like your chakra. We channel energy from outside, not from within. Naruto scratched his chin thoughtfully. Maybe not exactly the same, but there's gotta be overlap. I can sense your internal energy, it's there, just untapped. My family specialized in summoning, not combat, Hana explained, frustration clear in her voice. That's why she broke off, old pain flashing across her face. Hey, Naruto said gently. We don't have to keep going if, no, Hana interrupted, straightening her back. I want to learn. I'm tired of being helpless. If assassin comes for me again, I need to defend myself, not just rely on you. Naruto grinned. That's the spirit. Let's try something different. He created a shadow clone that sat behind Hana. My clone will channel a tiny bit of chakra into your back. Try to feel it, then guide it through your body. As the clone placed his hands on Hana's shoulders, Shiro emerged from the house carrying a tray with tea and rice balls. Breakfast, he announced, setting down the tray. You've been at it since sunrise. Thanks. Naruto called, not breaking his concentration. Almost got something here. Hana gasped suddenly as faint golden energy swirled around her hands, mixing with her blue magical circuits. I felt it, she exclaimed. Like a warm current I could direct. That's it. Naruto encouraged. Now try the leaf again. This time, when Hana placed the leaf on her palm, it rose slightly, hovering an inch above her skin as both blue and golden energy surrounded it. It's working, she breathed, eyes wide. What exactly are you teaching her? Came Saber's voice from the porch. She stood watching them, arms crossed but expression curious rather than disapproving. Ninja basics, Naruto explained as Hana carefully maintained her focus. Chakra control techniques. Figured some of it might translate to magecraft. And does it? Saber asked, stepping closer to observe. It's different, Hana answered without breaking her concentration. But there's compatibility. Like his energy can work as a bridge to strengthen mine. Naruto's clone vanished in a puff of smoke as Hana finally let the leaf flutter down, exhausted but grinning. That was amazing. I've never felt that kind of control before. She gratefully accepted the tea Shiro offered. My magic's always been formulaic, precise incantations, careful rituals. This feels more intuitive. That's how chakra works, Naruto explained, grabbing a rice ball. It's part of you, responding to your will. Looks like your magic can work that way too, with some practice. Saber sat beside them, accepting her own cup of tea. An interesting approach. In my time, magic was the domain of Merlin and others born with the gift. I never considered it something that could be taught like a martial skill. Everything can be learned, Naruto replied confidently. Maybe not to the same level for everyone, but the basics. Sure. Back home, I was terrible at chakra control as a kid. Dead last in my class. Now look at me. He created 5 perfect shadow clones instantly, each giving a thumbs up before disappearing. Show off, Hana muttered, but she was smiling. Rin emerged from the house, already dressed immaculately despite the early hour. I've analyzed the residual energy from those constructs last night, she announced without preamble. It's definitely corrupted servant essence, spiritual energy twisted and repurposed. Can you track it back to the source? Shiro asked. Rin nodded. Potentially. The energy has a unique signature. With the right preparations, I might be able to create a detection spell. Then that's our next move, Naruto decided, standing up and stretching. Find Daichi's base, figure out what he's doing with that black goop, and stop him. It won't be that simple, Saber cautioned. A magus capable of manipulating servant essence will have formidable defenses. Good thing we've got a formidable team, Naruto replied with a confident grin. Speaking of which, where's Archer? Scouting the city, Rin said. And before you ask, Lancer returned to his master after last night. We can't count on his help anymore. We should be enough, Shiro asserted. Between all of us, an arrow thudded into the ground at their feet, interrupting him. A note was attached to its shaft. Archer's signal, Rin said, quickly retrieving the message. Her expression darkened as she read. He's found something. An abandoned factory on the outskirts of the industrial district, unusual energy signatures and increased activity. Daichi? Hana asked. Possibly. Rin tucked the note away. Archer suggests reconnaissance only. The place is heavily warded. When do we leave? Naruto asked, already mentally preparing. Nightfall, Rin answered. Less chance of being noticed. Until then, we prepare. The day passed in focused activity. Rin worked on her detection spell, occasionally assisted by Hana. Shiro spent hours in his workshop, reinforcing various objects that might serve as weapons. Saber maintained a vigilant watch around the property, while Naruto sent shadow clones to scout the city from different angles. By late afternoon, Naruto found Saber in the dojo, practicing forms with her invisible sword. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her precise movements with appreciation. Your technique is amazing, he said after she completed a particularly complex sequence. I've never seen swordwork that clean. Saber lowered her weapon, turning to face him. Thank you. It's the result of years of dedicated training. She studied him curiously. You fight differently, adaptive, unpredictable. It's effective, though unorthodox. Naruto laughed, entering the dojo. That's me in a nutshell, unorthodox. Mind if I join you? Saber gestured welcomingly to the open space. Without further preamble, Naruto moved to the center of the floor and began his own practice routine, a fluid combination of taijutsu forms interspersed with quick hand signs and acrobatic movements. For several minutes, they trained in companionable silence, occasionally glancing at each other's techniques. Despite their vastly different styles, there was mutual respect in their observations. You mentioned being Hokage, Saber said eventually, pausing her practice. What exactly does that entail in your world? Naruto stopped as well, wiping sweat from his brow. The Hokage is the leader of my village, the Hidden Leaf. Part military commander, part administrator, part diplomat. Basically responsible for protecting everyone and making sure things run smoothly. And this was your lifelong ambition? Saber asked. Yeah. Naruto's expression softened with nostalgia. When I was a kid, everyone in the village hated me because of the 9 tails sealed inside me. I figured if I became Hokage, they'd have to acknowledge me, you know. But over time, the reason changed. I realized I wanted to protect everyone, to create peace. You were hated? Saber looked genuinely surprised. Yet you still wished to lead those same people. They had their reasons, Naruto said with a shrug. Fear makes people act stupid sometimes. But yeah, I still wanted to protect them. Eventually, they came around. Saving the village a few times helps with popularity. He grinned. Saber was quiet for a moment, contemplating. In my experience, earning the love of your people is far more difficult than earning their respect through fear or awe. Maybe that's because you tried to be perfect, Naruto suggested, sitting down on the dojo floor and motioning for her to join him. People don't connect with perfect. They connect with real. After a moment's hesitation, Saber sat across from him. A king must be more than ordinary. The moment they see your humanity, your weakness, is the moment they begin to doubt. See, that's where we disagree, Naruto said, leaning back on his hands. My weaknesses are what make me strong. I mess up, I learn, I grow. The people of my village have seen me at my worst and my best. That's why they trust me, they know I'm human, just like them. That may work in your world, Saber replied, though her tone lacked conviction. Did it work in yours? Being perfect, standing alone? Naruto asked gently. Saber's eyes dropped to her hands. My kingdom fell. My closest knights betrayed me. My people rebelled. You tell me. Sounds like it didn't, Naruto said simply. Which is why you want the Grail to redo everything. You make it sound foolish, Saber said, a hint of defensiveness returning to her voice. Not foolish, Naruto corrected. Human. Wanting to fix mistakes is natural. I just wonder if erasing everything, including the good parts, the lessons, the bonds you formed, is really the answer. Before Saber could respond, Shiro appeared at the dojo entrance. Rin says it's time. Everyone's gathering to finalize the plan. They joined the others in the main room, where Rin had laid out a roughly drawn map of the factory Archer had located. Based on Archer's observations, there are magical barriers here, here, and here, she indicated several points. They're designed to detect magical energy, which means servants will trigger them immediately. So we need a different approach, Shiro concluded. Exactly. I propose we split into 2 teams, Rin continued. Hana and I will work to dismantle the outer wards from this position. She pointed to a spot on the map. Shiro, you'll accompany us for protection. What about us? Naruto asked, gesturing between himself and Saber. You'll create a distraction, Rin explained. Once we've opened a gap in the defenses, you'll enter from the opposite side. Archer will provide ranged support from this vantage point. She indicated a nearby water tower. I don't like separating from my master, Saber frowned. I'll be fine, Shiro assured her. Rin needs protection too, and I can reinforce objects if necessary. After further discussion and refinement, they finalized the plan and prepared to move out. As dusk fell, the group made their way across the city, careful to avoid areas where other masters or servants might be active. The factory loomed before them, a hulking silhouette against the night sky, windows dark except for an occasional flicker of unnatural light from deep within. They could feel the magical barriers humming at the perimeter, invisible but potent. Remember, Rin whispered as they prepared to split up, reconnaissance only. We find out what Daichi is doing, then retreat to formulate a proper plan. Unless there's an immediate threat that needs handling, Naruto added. Rin sighed. Yes, unless there's an immediate threat. They separated, Rin, Hana, and Shiro circling to the west side of the complex, while Naruto and Saber positioned themselves near the main entrance, waiting for the signal that a gap had been created in the wards. "You've fought in many battles," Saber observed quietly as they waited in the shadows. "Too many," Naruto admitted. "Though I'm guessing you've got me beat on that front, King Arthur." "Perhaps." A ghost of a smile crossed Saber's face. "Though I suspect our experiences have been different. I led armies against other armies. You seem more accustomed to personal combat." "Shinobi work, yeah," Naruto nodded. "Though I've commanded during War too. The Fourth Great Ninja War was, well, let's just say I hope to never see anything like it again." "Was that when you gained your reputation as a savior?" Saber asked. Naruto looked surprised at her insight. "Yeah, actually. I helped stop a goddess who wanted to trap everyone in an eternal dream world. Not exactly a typical Tuesday. And yet you speak of it so casually," Saber noted. Naruto shrugged. "What else can you do? Dwell on the nightmare parts or remember that you got through it?" "I choose the second option." A small flash of blue light caught their attention, Rin's signal that they'd breached the outer wards. "That's our cue," Naruto said, rising into a crouch. "Ready?" Saber nodded, materializing her armor. "Stay close. We don't know what awaits us inside." They moved swiftly across the open ground, Naruto's enhanced senses alert for any sign of detection. The factory doors were chained shut, but Saber's sword made short work of them. They slipped inside, finding themselves in a vast, empty production floor littered with abandoned machinery. "This place has been empty for years," Naruto whispered, noting the thick dust covering everything, except a clear path of footprints leading toward a set of stairs. They followed the trail downward, descending into the factory's sublevels. The air grew thick with magical energy, and something else, something wrong that made the hair on Naruto's neck stand up. "You feel that?" he asked Saber. She nodded grimly. "Corrupted spiritual energy, similar to what we encountered with the constructs, but stronger." The stairway opened into a massive underground chamber that had clearly been modified recently. Complex magical circles covered the floor and walls, glowing with sickly purple light. At the center stood a large container filled with swirling black liquid, the same substance Daichi had collected from the dissolving constructs. "What is he doing?" Saber breathed, taking in the elaborate setup. Naruto moved closer to examine one of the magical circles, careful not to touch it. "These look like modified summoning arrays, but they're all connected to that container." "He's using corrupted servant essence as a catalyst," came a voice from behind them. They spun to find Lancer leaning against a pillar, his crimson spear resting casually on his shoulder. "Don't look so alarmed," he said with a lazy grin. "If I wanted to fight, you'd know it already." "What are you doing here?" Saber demanded, sword raised. "Same as you, investigating. My master's curious about these anomalies." Lancer pushed off from the pillar, approaching the central container but maintaining a respectful distance. "Been watching this place for 2 days. Shimada comes and goes, collecting more of that black stuff each time." "And your master sent you to spy rather than stop him?" Naruto asked skeptically. Lancer shrugged. "Information is valuable. Besides, whatever he's doing isn't ready yet. Those circles are preparation for something bigger." "What do you know about it?" Saber pressed. "The essence in that container? It's servant spirit energy, but corrupted. When servants die in the Holy Grail War, they're supposed to return to the throne of heroes. Somehow, Shimada is intercepting that process, capturing their energy before it disperses." "For what purpose?" Saber asked. "That's the interesting part," Lancer replied, his casual demeanor dropping slightly. "He's not just creating artificial servants like we saw yesterday. He's trying to manifest something specific. Something powerful." A distant explosion interrupted them, coming from the direction where Rin, Hana, and Shiro were positioned. "Sounds like your friends found trouble," Lancer remarked. Naruto was already moving toward the stairs. We need to help them. Wait, Saber called, looking torn between following and investigating further. We may not get another chance to examine this setup. Naruto paused. Make it quick. Saber approached the central container, studying the connections between it and the surrounding arrays. These formations, they're designed to channel the corrupted essence into a vessel. But not just any vessel, a human one. He's trying to embody a servant? Lancer asked, sounding genuinely surprised. That's suicide. Or apotheosis, from his perspective, Saber replied grimly. If he succeeds, he could gain powers beyond any normal magus. Another explosion, louder this time, made the decision for them. We need to go, Naruto insisted. Now. They raced back up the stairs, Lancer accompanying them with no explanation needed. When they reached the main factory floor, they found it transformed into a battleground. The artificial servant constructs from before were swarming in through broken windows and doors, at least a dozen of them, with more appearing. Outside, they could see flashes of archers' arrows raining down, each shot eliminating a construct but seemingly replaced by two more. At the far side of the factory floor, Shiro, Rin, and Hana had taken defensive positions behind overturned machinery. We need to get to them, Naruto shouted over the chaos. Go, Lancer said, spinning his spear with a predatory grin. I'll clear a path. Consider it professional courtesy. True to his word, Lancer launched himself into the mass of constructs, his crimson spear cutting through them with frightening efficiency. Don't get used to the help, he called back. Next time we meet, it might be as enemies. Naruto and Saber seized the opportunity, fighting their way across the factory floor toward their companions. Naruto's shadow clones multiplied their effectiveness, while Saber's swordsmanship created a zone of safety around them. They reached the others just as a new wave of constructs burst through the wall. What happened to reconnaissance only? Naruto asked Rin as he dispatched two constructs with a Rasengan. Apparently Daichi expected visitors, Rin replied, firing a Gander shot that blasted a construct's head apart. The wards were a trap, they signaled our presence when we tampered with them. Hana was holding her own, using the techniques Naruto had taught her to enhance her magic. Her hands glowed with a combination of blue and golden energy as she erected a barrier that repelled the nearest constructs. We need to retreat, Shiro called, swinging a reinforced pipe that shattered a construct's arm. There are too many. Agreed, Saber replied, cutting down 3 more enemies with a single sweep of her sword. This is a battle of attrition we cannot win. Naruto assessed the situation quickly. The main doors were blocked by the heaviest concentration of constructs, and more were pouring in through the windows and side entrances. The roof, he decided. Archer can cover us from there, and I can get everyone down safely on the other side. They fought their way to a maintenance stairwell, cutting through constructs that pursued them relentlessly. As they climbed, Naruto noticed Hana beginning to falter, the strain of maintaining her enhanced magic taking its toll. You okay? He asked, supporting her as they climbed. Just, tired, she managed, breathing heavily. Never used my circuits this intensely before. Almost there, Naruto encouraged. You're doing amazing. They burst onto the roof, immediately greeted by Archer who had repositioned to provide closer support. About time, he remarked dryly. I was beginning to think you enjoyed fighting those abominations. Less talking, more escaping, Rin shot back, glancing at the access door they'd just emerged from. They're right behind us. Naruto moved to the edge of the roof, surveying the drop to the ground, easily 4 stories. I'll create a chain of clones to get everyone down, he began. He never finished the sentence. A blast of corrupt magical energy erupted from the access door as it was blown off its hinges. Standing in the opening was Daichi Shimada, but changed from their previous encounter. Black veins pulsed visibly beneath his skin, and his eyes glowed with an unnatural purple light. Leaving so soon? he asked, his voice resonating with power that hadn't been present before. After I arranged this welcome specifically for you. You knew we were coming, Rin realized. Of course, Daichi smiled coldly. The Grand Savior's appearance accelerated my timetable, but it doesn't change the outcome. I simply needed to assess his capabilities directly. So this was all a test? Shiro demanded. More like data collection, Daichi replied. And now, a demonstration. He raised his hand, and the black veins beneath his skin pulsed visibly. From his palm erupted a wave of corrupted energy that took shape as it approached, forming into what appeared to be a distorted noble phantasm, a twisted version of Saber's Excalibur wreathed in dark flames. Impossible, Saber breathed, raising her own sword in defense. The essence of fallen servants offers many possibilities, Daichi explained as the dark blade in his hand stabilized. Their powers, their noble phantasms, all can be replicated, if one understands the principles. He swung the corrupt Excalibur, releasing a wave of dark energy toward them. Saber stepped forward, meeting it with her own noble phantasm, the two forces colliding in a spectacular explosion of gold and purple light. The roof beneath them cracked from the impact, sections beginning to give way. We need to move. Archer shouted, already firing arrows at Daichi, who deflected them effortlessly with his stolen weapon. Naruto created dozens of shadow clones, forming a protective ring around his companions as the roof continued to collapse. Everyone together, he ordered. I'll get us out. Saber disengaged from her clash with Daichi, retreating to join the others. Just as she reached them, Daichi released another blast, this one aimed not at Saber but at Hana. The master is often the easiest target, he called tauntingly. Naruto moved without thinking, shoving Hana aside and taking the brunt of the attack himself. The corrupt energy seared through his jacket, burning his shoulder and chest. He staggered but remained standing. Naruto! Hana cried, horrified at the smoking wound on his body. I'm fine, he growled, though the pain was evident in his voice. What was worse, he could feel the corruption trying to spread from the wound, like poison in his chakra network. Everyone, hold on to me or a clone. As they grouped together, Daichi prepared another attack. This time, Archer intercepted it with a barrage of arrows, creating a momentary diversion. Now! Rin shouted. Naruto focused his chakra, ignoring the burning pain in his shoulder, and teleported the entire group away from the collapsing factory, a technique he rarely used due to its chakra cost, but their only option for immediate escape. They reappeared a half-mile away, in a deserted park. Naruto immediately collapsed to one knee, the combined strain of teleporting multiple people and fighting the corruption in his wound overwhelming even his vast reserves. Naruto! Hana knelt beside him, her face pale with worry. The wound, Saber observed, her expression grim. It's spreading. Indeed, black veins were creeping outward from the burn on Naruto's shoulder, similar to those they'd seen on Daichi's skin. Corrupted servant essence, Rin said, examining it carefully. It's trying to invade his spiritual core. Can you stop it? Shiro asked urgently. Rin shook her head. This is beyond my expertise. It's not normal magecraft. Then it's a good thing I'm not a normal servant, Naruto managed through gritted teeth. He closed his eyes, focusing inward. Kurama, I could use some help here. Inside his mindscape, the nine-tailed fox stirred. I feel it, the massive creature growled. Foreign energy, trying to corrupt your chakra. And by extension, mine. Can we burn it out? Naruto asked. Kurama's tail swished irritably. Of course we can. Nothing corrupts my chakra without permission. But it won't be pleasant. Never is, Naruto sighed. Let's do it. Outside, the others watched in amazement as golden energy began to emanate from Naruto's body, taking the vague shape of a fox around him. The black veins in his wound pulsed, as if fighting against this new energy, before slowly receding. What's happening? Shiro asked, shielding his eyes from the brightness. He's purifying himself, Hana realized, sensing the interplay of energies. Fighting the corruption with his own power. After an intense minute, the golden energy faded, and Naruto opened his eyes, now returned to their normal blue. The wound remained, but the black corruption was gone. That, he announced, breathing heavily, was not fun. You purged the corruption, Rin said, clearly impressed. How? Let's just say I have experience with foreign entities trying to take over my body, Naruto replied, slowly standing with Hana's help. This isn't my first rodeo. Saber stepped forward, her expression a mixture of concern and newfound respect. You placed yourself in danger to protect your master. That was admirable. What, did you think I wouldn't? Naruto asked with a tired grin. Before Saber could respond, Archer materialized beside Rin. Daichi escaped, he reported. Along with most of his research materials. The factory is destroyed, but he achieved his objective. Which was? Rin prompted. To test the Grand Savior's capabilities, apparently, Archer replied, glancing at Naruto. And to demonstrate his own growing power. Those weren't normal servant abilities, Shiro observed. The way he replicated Excalibur. He's accessing the essence of fallen servants, Saber said, her voice tight with anger. Stealing their noble phantasms, their techniques, perverting them for his own use. But to what end? Hana asked. What's his ultimate goal? The Holy Grail, Rin answered grimly. It must be. He's not participating in the war traditionally, he's found another way to access its power. By corrupting it from within, Naruto concluded, wincing as he shifted his injured shoulder. That's why I was summoned as the Grand Savior. The failsafe activated because someone's tampering with the system itself. They fell silent, processing the implications. Finally, Shiro spoke. We should return to my house. We all need rest, and we need to plan our next move carefully. No one argued. They made their way back to the Amiya residence, keeping to shadowed streets and remaining vigilant for any sign of pursuit. Upon arrival, Rin immediately set about treating Naruto's wound properly, applying magical salves that would accelerate his already impressive healing. You should rest, she instructed as she finished. Servant or not, that corruption took a toll on your spiritual energy. Naruto nodded, too tired to argue. Hana looked equally exhausted, the extended use of her enhanced magical abilities having drained her considerably. I'll take first watch, Saber volunteered. Archer can patrol the perimeter. Wake me in a few hours, Naruto said. I heal fast, and you need rest too. Saber looked like she might protest, but ultimately nodded her agreement. As night deepened, the Amiya household fell into an uneasy quiet. Shiro and Rin retreated to separate rooms to rest, while Hana was given the guest room she'd used previously. Naruto, despite the offer of a proper futon, insisted on resting in the courtyard where he could recover while remaining alert to any danger. 3 hours later, Saber found him sitting on the porch, gazing up at the stars. His wound was already significantly improved, though still visible beneath his partially repaired jacket. You should be resting, she said, sitting beside him. I did, Naruto replied. Power naps work wonders. Besides, the stars help me think. Saber followed his gaze upward. Are they the same as in your world? Some constellations look similar, others are completely different, Naruto mused. Makes me wonder what else is different, or the same, between our worlds. You miss your home, Saber observed. It wasn't a question, but Naruto answered anyway. Yeah. I've got people waiting for me there. Friends. My village. A fond smile crossed his face. My wife and kids. Saber looked surprised. You have a family? Naruto nodded. 2 kids, Boruto and Himawari. They're a handful, but amazing. And Hinata. His expression softened further. She's the strongest person I know, in all the ways that matter. You speak of them with such love, Saber noted quietly. They're my world, Naruto said simply. Everything I do for them and the village. To create a place where they can grow up happy and safe. He glanced at Saber. That's why I understand your wish, even if I don't agree with it. Wanting to protect what you love, there's no purer motivation. Saber was silent for a long moment. My motivation was duty, she finally said. I told myself it was for my people, but perhaps it was more about fulfilling the role I had accepted. The perfect king, making the perfect kingdom. And did it make you happy? Naruto asked gently. Saber's laugh was short and without humor. Happiness was not a consideration. A king does not rule for personal satisfaction. Maybe that was the problem, Naruto suggested. I love being Hokage because I love my people. The job is hard, exhausting, sometimes heartbreaking, but knowing I'm protecting what matters gives me joy. He shifted to face her directly. Did you ever allow yourself to feel joy in your role? Or was it all sacrifice? The question seemed to catch Saber off guard. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, truly considering his words. There were moments, she admitted softly. Rare ones. When my knights laughed together around the round table. When a village celebrated after we defeated a threat. When children would run alongside my horse as I rode through towns. Her expression grew distant with memory. I didn't recognize those as joy at the time. They were distractions from duty. Not distractions, Naruto corrected. Reminders of what you were fighting for. The real stuff, the connections, the people. Not some abstract ideal of a perfect kingdom. They sat in companionable silence for a while, each lost in thought. Eventually, Saber spoke again. The corruption Daichi is spreading, it reminds me of something I encountered in my last war. The Grail itself was tainted, filled with all the world's evils. Naruto frowned. You're saying the Holy Grail is naturally corrupt? Not naturally, no. Something corrupted it in a previous war. I believed it had been addressed, but perhaps the taint remained, lying dormant until someone like Daichi found a way to exploit it. That would explain why the Grand Savior class was summoned, Naruto reasoned. If the failsafe is triggered by corruption in the Grail system, then your purpose here may be greater than simply winning the war, Saber concluded. You may need to purify the Grail itself, as you purified your own wound. Naruto considered this, absently touching his healing shoulder. If that's the case, we need to understand exactly what Daichi is planning. He's not just creating artificial servants or stealing their powers, he's working towards something bigger. Using the corruption to manifest something, Saber agreed. But what? Before they could speculate further, they both sensed a presence approaching, not hostile, but powerful. They rose to their feet just as Lancer appeared at the edge of the property, his spear slung casually over his shoulder. Don't look so alarmed, he called. Just delivering a message. From your master? Saber asked warily. Indirectly, Lancer replied. After our little adventure at the factory, I did some investigating on my own. Thought you might want to know, Daichi's planning his endgame. He's set up shop beneath Ryuta Temple, right above the Greater Grail's manifestation point. How do you know this? Naruto demanded. Lancer shrugged. My master has resources. And self-interest, whatever Daichi's planning will disrupt the proper war, which means no wish fulfillment for anyone. When? Saber pressed. Tomorrow night. Full moon. Lancer turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and he's not alone anymore. He's got something with him, not quite a servant, but stronger than those constructs. Something he created from all that black essence he's been collecting. With that ominous warning, Lancer disappeared into the night, leaving Naruto and Saber to process this new information. "We need to wake the others," Saber said urgently. Naruto nodded, but caught her arm gently before she could move. "Saber. Artoria. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know I've enjoyed fighting alongside you. In another life, I think we could have been good friends." Saber's expression softened in a way Naruto hadn't seen before. "Perhaps we already are," she replied, surprising both of them with the admission. Together, they went to alert the household to Lancer's message. Within minutes, everyone was gathered around the table despite the late hour, the atmosphere tense with the knowledge that they were approaching a critical confrontation. "Ryudo Temple makes strategic sense," Rin explained, spreading out a map. "It sits on the convergence of the city's major ley lines, and it's the traditional manifestation point for the Greater Grail at the war's conclusion." "But the war isn't over," Shiro pointed out. "Only Berserker has been defeated so far, and even he will return." "Daichi isn't playing by the normal rules," Hana reminded them. "He's found another way to access the Grail's power, through corruption rather than victory. Which means we need to stop him before he completes whatever ritual he's planning," Archer concluded, materializing beside Rin. "The temple has natural barriers against servants, but they won't affect masters or Daichi's constructs. So we need a coordinated approach," Naruto said, studying the map. "Masters and servants working together, playing to our strengths." They spent the next hour formulating a plan of attack, considering every angle and contingency they could imagine. When they finally finished, dawn was breaking over the horizon. "We should rest today," Rin advised. "Conserve our strength for tonight." "Agreed," Shiro said. "I'll prepare food for everyone. We'll need our energy." As the household dispersed to make preparations, Hana pulled Naruto aside. "I've been thinking about what happened at the factory," she said, her expression serious. "You took that hit for me." "Of course I did," Naruto replied as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I'm your servant. More importantly, I'm your friend." Hana shook her head. "When I summoned you, I was desperate, thinking only of my own survival. I didn't consider what I was asking of you, pulling you away from your family, your responsibilities." "Hey," Naruto said gently. "I'm here because I'm needed. That's how it works. When this is over, I'll return to my world, and you'll be safe. That's a win in my book." "But what if," Hana began, her voice cracking slightly. "No what ifs," Naruto interrupted firmly. "We're going to stop Daichi, purify the Grail if that's what needs to happen, and then you're going to live a long, happy life using all those new techniques I taught you to become an awesome magus." Despite her anxiety, Hana smiled. "You make it sound so simple." "Simple doesn't mean easy," Naruto acknowledged. "But we've got a solid team, a good plan, and," he grinned, "the greatest ninja in history on your side. What could go wrong?" "Don't jinx us," Hana groaned, but she was still smiling. The day passed in quiet preparation. Rin and Hana worked together on magical countermeasures against the corruption they expected to encounter. Shiro reinforced weapons for everyone who might need them. Saber and Archer discussed tactical approaches to the temple grounds, while Naruto alternated between resting to fully recover his strength and sending shadow clones to scout the area around their target. As evening approached, they gathered once more for a final meal together before departing. The atmosphere was solemn but determined, each person aware of the stakes and their role in the coming confrontation. "Whatever happens tonight," Shiro said, looking around at the unlikely allies gathered in his home, "I'm grateful to have fought alongside all of you." "Save the speeches for after we win," Rin replied, though her tone lacked its usual sharpness. Naruto caught Saber's eye across the table, a silent understanding passing between them. They had discussed strategies and possibilities late into the previous night, including worst-case scenarios neither had mentioned to the others. If Daichi had truly merged with corrupted servant essence, he might be more powerful than any of them individually. Victory would require perfect teamwork, and possibly sacrifice. As they prepared to leave, Naruto pulled Hana aside once more. No matter what happens tonight, he said seriously, stay close to Shiro and Rin. Your safety is my priority. I'm not hiding while everyone else fights, Hana replied firmly. I may not be as powerful as the rest of you, but I can contribute. Naruto recognized the determination in her eyes, the same he'd seen in his own reflection countless times. All right, he conceded. But the moment things get too dangerous, you retreat. Promise me. After a moment's hesitation, Hana nodded. I promise. The journey to Ryuta Temple was tense but uneventful. As they approached the base of the mountain, the full moon rose above them, bathing the ancient stone steps in silvery light. They could feel the magical energy in the air, thicker, heavier than normal, with an underlying current of wrongness that made their skin crawl. He's already begun, Rin observed grimly. I can sense the ritual's preliminary stages. Then we don't have much time, Archer replied, materializing his bow. They proceeded according to plan, Archer taking position on a ridge overlooking the temple, while the others advanced up the stone steps. As expected, they encountered resistance almost immediately. Constructs emerged from the shadows, more refined than previous versions, their movements more fluid and their attacks more coordinated. Naruto and Saber took the lead, creating a path forward while Rin, Shiro, and Hana provided support from behind. They fought their way steadily upward, but it was clear the constructs were meant to delay rather than defeat them, sacrificial pawns buying time for whatever Daichi was preparing at the temple summit. Halfway up the mountain, Naruto sensed a more powerful presence approaching. Everyone, be ready. From further up the steps emerged a figure that made them all pause. It appeared to be a servant, but wrong somehow. Its features were a composite of multiple heroes, its armor a patchwork of different styles, and it wielded weapons in both hands, a distorted version of Lancer's spear in one and what appeared to be Saber's Excalibur in the other. A composite servant, Rin breathed in horror. He's merged multiple servant essences into one entity. The abomination attacked without warning, moving with incredible speed. Saber met its charge, their swords clashing in a shower of sparks, gold against corrupted purple. The force of impact sent shockwaves through the air, cracking the stone steps beneath them. Go! Saber called to the others as she held the creature at bay. I will handle this. Not alone, Naruto countered, joining her side. To the others, he shouted, continue to the temple. Stop the ritual. Rin hesitated only briefly before nodding. Come on, she urged Shiro and Hana. We need to reach the summit. As they continued upward, Naruto and Saber faced the composite servant together. It was unlike any opponent either had encountered, unpredictable, wielding multiple noble phantasms with terrifying proficiency. It has the abilities of multiple servants, Saber observed as they momentarily disengaged. But its movements lack the refinement of true heroes. It's like fighting a shadow of several people at once, Naruto agreed. Powerful, but soulless. They adapted their strategy accordingly, working in perfect tandem to exploit the construct's weaknesses. Where it had power, it lacked creativity, where it had multiple techniques, it lacked the intuitive mastery that came from a hero's lifetime of experience. Saber fought with the full extent of her swordsmanship, each strike precise and powerful. Naruto complemented her approach with unpredictable attacks from multiple angles, his shadow clones confusing the construct while he prepared more powerful techniques. Together. Naruto called as they coordinated a simultaneous attack. Saber channeled her mana into Excalibur, the golden sword blazing with light, while Naruto formed his most powerful Rasengan variant, wind chakra spinning around the sphere in the shape of a shuriken. Excalibur. Rasen Shuriken. Their attack struck the construct from opposite sides, the combined force of holy sword and chakra technique tearing through its corrupted form. The creature let out an inhuman wail as it dissolved, its essence dispersing into particles of purple light. They paused only briefly to confirm its defeat before racing up the remaining steps. At the temple summit, they found a scene of chaos. The traditional shrine buildings had been transformed, mystical arrays carved into the wooden floors, walls covered in glowing sigils, and at the center, a massive ritual circle where Daichi stood, surrounded by swirling black energy. Rin, Shiro, and Hana were engaged with more constructs, fighting to reach the central ritual. Archer provided support from his vantage point, his arrows eliminating threats with surgical precision. "We're too late," Saber realized as they arrived. The ritual has reached its critical stage. Indeed, Daichi was no longer fully human in appearance. The black veins had spread across his entire body, his eyes glowed with purple fire, and he levitated at the center of the circle, chanting in an ancient language that made reality itself seem to warp around him. "The Grail," he called, his voice resonating with unnatural power. "Come forth, not as the founders intended, but as you truly are, vessel of all the world's evils." The ground beneath the temple began to shake, cracks appearing in the stone as black liquid, similar to what they'd seen in Daichi's container, but vastly more, began to seep upward. "We need to stop him now," Naruto shouted, creating dozens of shadow clones that charged toward the ritual circle. Daichi made a dismissive gesture, and a wave of corrupt energy disintegrated the clones instantly. "The Grand Savior," he acknowledged with a twisted smile. "Right on schedule. Your presence is the final catalyst I needed." "What are you doing?" Saber demanded, positioning herself protectively in front of the masters. "Fulfilling the Grail's true purpose," Daichi replied. "The founders created it for wish fulfillment, but they never understood its real potential. The corruption that entered it 3 wars ago wasn't a flaw, it was an evolution. The Grail's true form." "You're insane," Rin called, firing a Ganja shot that dissipated harmlessly against Daichi's protective field. "The corruption is a perversion of the original system." "Perspective, Tosaka," Daichi laughed. "Your ancestors built a system to reach the root through heroic sacrifice. I'm merely expanding that vision, using corrupted heroes to access something beyond the root. The primal chaos that preceded creation itself." The black liquid continued to rise, forming a massive sphere behind Daichi, a dark mirror of what the Holy Grail was meant to be. "We need to purify it," Naruto realized, looking to Saber. "Just like I purified the corruption in my wound." Saber nodded in understanding. "But on a much larger scale." "Can you do that?" "Not alone," Naruto admitted. "But with help." He closed his eyes briefly, communing with the Nine Tails. "This corruption is ancient and powerful," Kurama growled within his mindscape. "But not beyond our abilities. Especially not with allies." Naruto opened his eyes, now shifted to their golden sage mode appearance. "I need to get closer to the Grail," he told Saber. "Can you create an opening?" "Consider it done," she replied, raising Excalibur. "Shiro, Rin, Hana, lend me your strength." Understanding her intent, the 3 masters moved to support Saber, channeling their combined magical energy to enhance her noble phantasm. Excalibur began to glow with unprecedented brilliance, responding to the unity of purpose among them. "Now!" Saber cried, swinging her sword in a perfect arc. Excalibur. The wave of holy energy that erupted from her sword was blinding in its intensity, cutting through Daichi's protective barriers and momentarily disrupting the ritual. It was the opening Naruto needed. He moved with all the speed he could muster, crossing the distance to the corrupted Grail in an instant. Daichi tried to intercept him, hurling bolts of tainted energy that Naruto dodged with the enhanced reflexes of Sage Mode. "You cannot stop what has already begun." Daichi roared, his body beginning to merge with the black substance of the corrupted Grail. "I am becoming one with it, the vessel for chaos itself." "Yeah, I've heard that before," Naruto replied, his hands forming familiar seals. "Never works out well for the vessel." Golden chakra erupted around Naruto, taking the form of the Nine Tails. At the same time, he reached deep within himself, accessing the 6-path Sage Mode he had rarely needed since the 4th Great Ninja War. His appearance transformed further, his eyes shifting to a cross-shaped pupil, his body surrounded by a golden cloak of pure chakra, truth-seeking orbs materializing behind him. What is this power? Daichi gasped, momentarily taken aback by the transformation. Something you wouldn't understand, Naruto answered simply. The power that comes from bonds, from protecting what matters, not from stealing or corrupting. He placed his hands directly on the surface of the black sphere, and the reaction was immediate and violent. Gold and black energies clashed, creating a vortex of power that engulfed both Naruto and Daichi. Within the maelstrom, a battle of wills commenced, Naruto's purifying chakra against the ancient corruption that had taken root in the Holy Grail system. Outside the vortex, Saber and the others could only watch, occasionally fighting off remaining constructs that continued to attack despite their master's preoccupation. What's happening? Shiro asked, shielding his eyes from the intense light emanating from the clash of energies. He's purifying the Grail, Hana realized, sensing the familiar pattern of Naruto's chakra. Like he did with his own wound, but on an immensely larger scale. Can he succeed? Rin wondered, her expression tense with concern. If anyone can, it's him, Saber replied with quiet confidence. Inside the vortex, Naruto found himself in a strange mindscape, similar to his inner world where he communicated with Kurama, but darker, filled with shadows and whispers of malice. Before him stood Daichi, but changed, his form flickering between human and something ancient and terrible. Do you see now? Daichi asked, his voice echoing strangely. This is the true nature of the Grail, a gateway to primordial forces beyond human comprehension. I see someone who couldn't handle their own ambition, Naruto countered, his golden aura pushing back the darkness around them. You wanted power so badly you were willing to corrupt yourself completely. Corruption is merely transformation, Daichi replied. As I am being transformed now, into something greater. Not greater, Naruto said firmly. Just different. And definitely not better. He extended his hand, golden chakra flowing outward in waves. Where it touched the darkness, it began to purify it, not by destroying, but by separating the natural spiritual energy from the corruption that had twisted it. Daichi screamed in rage and pain as the process affected him too, the corruption that had become part of him being drawn out against his will. Stop. You don't understand what you're doing. This power could reshape reality itself. I understand perfectly, Naruto replied calmly. I've faced gods and monsters. I've seen what happens when people try to take shortcuts to peace or power. It never ends well. The purification accelerated, Kurama's chakra joining with the natural energy of Sage Mode to create a cleansing fire that burned away corruption without harming the underlying structure of the Grail system. As the darkness receded, something else began to emerge, the true form of the Holy Grail, a vessel of pure golden light. No. Daichi howled, making one final, desperate lunge toward Naruto. I won't let you take this from me. Naruto sidestepped the attack with ease, placing his palm on Daichi's chest. It was never yours to take, he said simply, channeling a final pulse of purifying energy directly into the corrupted Magus. The result was immediate and final. Daichi's form couldn't withstand the separation from the corruption that had sustained him. He dissolved into particles of light, his essence returning to the natural cycle from which he had tried to remove himself. The mindscape around Naruto began to stabilize, the darkness replaced by a gentle golden glow. Before him floated what appeared to be the true Holy Grail, not a cup as legends described, but a perfect sphere of pure magical energy. Well done, came Kurama's voice from within him. The corruption is purged. The system is returning to its intended state. And Daichi? Naruto asked. Gone, Kurama confirmed. He bound himself too closely to the corruption. When you purified it, he had nothing left to sustain his existence. Naruto nodded solemnly. Despite everything, he took no joy in Daichi's end. Time to go back, he said, reaching out to touch the purified Grail. Reality shifted around him, and suddenly he was back in the temple, the vortex of energy dispersing to reveal a transformed scene. The black sphere was gone, replaced by a hovering golden orb, the true Holy Grail, purified of corruption. The temple grounds had been restored, the damage from the battle repaired as if by magic. Naruto fell to his knees, exhausted from the immense expenditure of chakra. Hana rushed to his side immediately. "You did it," she said, eyes wide with wonder as she gazed at the floating Grail. Saber approached more slowly, her expression a mixture of awe and confusion. "This is, the true Holy Grail." "Yeah," Naruto confirmed, allowing Hana to help him stand. "Purified of the corruption that's been affecting it from multiple wars." Rin examined the golden orb carefully, her analytical mind working through the implications. "The system has reset," she concluded. "This isn't just the Grail as a wish-granting device, it's the original framework of the entire war." "So what happens now?" Shiro asked, looking around at their group. "Does the war continue?" A gentle voice emanated from the Grail itself, surprising them all. "The purpose has been fulfilled," it said. "The corruption that threatened to consume all has been purged. The Grand Savior has completed his task." They exchanged glances, understanding the implications. "You mean, it's over?" Hana asked. "No more fighting. The current iteration of the Holy Grail War is concluded," the voice confirmed. "The system will reset for future summoning, but purified of the taint that has plagued it for generations." "And what of our wishes?" Saber asked, unable to keep a note of desperation from her voice. "The reason we were summoned in the first place?" The Grail pulsed gently. "One wish remains possible, as gratitude for the purification. Choose wisely." All eyes turned to Naruto, the Grand Savior whose actions had saved the Grail itself. "I guess that means it's up to me," he said, looking uncomfortable with the responsibility. He turned to his companions. "Any suggestions?" "It's your right," Rin said firmly. "You're the one who purified the Grail." "With everyone's help," Naruto pointed out. "I couldn't have done it alone." His gaze fell on Saber, whose expression was carefully controlled but whose eyes revealed her inner conflict. He knew what she wanted, to return to the past, to save her kingdom from destruction. But their conversations over the past days had planted seeds of doubt about whether that was truly the best path. "Saber," he said quietly. "If you could have your wish now, would you still choose the same one?" Saber hesitated, something she rarely did. I don't know," she admitted. "For so long, my only thought was to undo my failures, to save Britain from its fall. But now. Naruto prompted gently. "Now I wonder if looking backward is truly the answer," she said, the admission clearly difficult for her. "You spoke of facing forward, of learning from the past rather than trying to erase it. Perhaps there is wisdom in that approach." Naruto nodded, then turned back to the Grail. "I know what I want to wish for," he announced. "I wish for everyone here to have what they truly need, not necessarily what they think they want, but what will bring them genuine peace." The Grail pulsed brightly in response. "A selfless wish," the voice acknowledged. "So be it." Golden light emanated from the orb, washing over each of them in turn. They felt a warm sensation, as if the light was examining their hearts, understanding their deepest desires and needs. When it reached Saber, she gasped, tears forming in her eyes as something within her shifted, not the removal of her regret, but perhaps a new perspective on it, a healing of old wounds without erasing the lessons they had taught. For Hana, the light seemed to fill her with confidence and purpose, the tools to rebuild her life after the tragedy that had befallen her family. Shiro and Rin experienced their own revelations, private epiphanies that brought small smiles to their faces. When the light touched Naruto, he felt a connection, a bridge between worlds, ensuring his return home to those who waited for him while maintaining a thread to the bonds he had formed here. As the light faded, the Grail began to dissolve, its purpose fulfilled. "The war concludes," the voice said, growing fainter. "Until need arises again, in another time." With those words, the Grail disappeared completely, leaving them standing in the peaceful temple grounds under the full moon. "It's really over," Shiro said in disbelief. "Yes," Rin confirmed, her magical senses detecting the system's shutdown. "The Holy Grail War has ended, at least this iteration of it." "What does that mean for servants?" Hana asked, looking worriedly at Naruto. "Normally, we would begin to fade without the Grail sustaining us," Saber explained. "But given the unusual nature of this war's conclusion." She trailed off as they all noticed that neither she nor Naruto showed any signs of disappearing. "Looks like we've got a little time," Naruto observed with a smile. "The Grail's final gift, maybe." "Time for proper farewells," Saber agreed, her expression softer than they had yet seen it. They made their way down from the temple, the night peaceful around them. No constructs remained, no threats lurked in the shadows. For the first time since Naruto's arrival in this world, the air felt clean of corruption and malice. At the base of the mountain, Archer materialized beside them, having completed his final watch. "It seems congratulations are in order," he remarked dryly. "Though I admit, I never expected such an unconventional resolution." "Nothing about this war has been conventional," Rin replied with a small smile. They returned to the Amiya residence as dawn approached, each lost in their own thoughts about what had transpired and what would come next. Despite their exhaustion, no one seemed ready for sleep. Too much had happened, too much had changed. In the courtyard, Naruto found Saber sitting alone, watching the first hints of sunrise color the eastern sky. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. She gestured to the space beside her. "Please do." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Saber spoke. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what you wished for." "Figured it was better than trying to decide who got their specific wish," Naruto replied with a shrug. "This way, everyone gets what they truly need." "And what did you need?" Saber asked curiously. Naruto smiled. "A way home, eventually. But also." He looked at her directly, "a way to remember the friends I made here." "Friends," Saber repeated the word thoughtfully. "I've had few of those, in my existence. Comrades, followers, subjects, but rarely friends." "Well, you've got one now," Naruto assured her. "Even across worlds." A genuine smile lit Saber's face, transforming her usual reserved expression into something radiant. "I believe I do." They felt it simultaneously, a subtle shift in the magical atmosphere, a gentle tugging sensation. "Looks like our time is almost up," Naruto observed. "The Grail's influence is fading completely." "Yes," Saber agreed, her form beginning to shimmer slightly with golden particles. "We will return to where we belong." They stood together, facing the rising sun. In the house, they could hear the others stirring, coming to join them for final farewells. "Will you be summoned again?" Naruto asked. "In future wars?" "Perhaps," Saber replied. "Though I hope with a clearer purpose than before." She hesitated, then added, "And you? Will the Grand Savior return if needed?" Naruto grinned. "If there's trouble, I've got a way of showing up. That's my ninja way." As Hana, Shiro, and Rin joined them in the courtyard, the process accelerated, both servants now visibly dissolving into golden light. "I don't want you to go," Hana admitted, tears in her eyes as she faced Naruto. "But I understand you have to return to your family." "Hey," Naruto said. Gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Remember what I taught you. You've got the strength inside you, you always did. I just helped you find it." Saber turned to Shiro. "You have grown much in this short time. Continue on your path, but remember, being a hero of justice doesn't mean saving everyone alone. Accept help when it is offered." "I will," Shiro promised. "And I'll remember everything you taught me." As their forms became more translucent, Naruto and Saber exchanged one final glance, a look of perfect understanding between two leaders from different worlds who had found common ground. Until we meet again, King of Knights, Naruto said with a respectful bow. Until then, Grand Savior, Saber replied, returning the gesture. With a final flash of golden light, they disappeared, returning to their respective places in the infinite tapestry of heroic spirits and parallel worlds, leaving behind friends forever changed by their brief but profound connection. In the Hidden Leaf Village, Naruto Uzumaki opened his eyes at his desk, a stack of unfinished paperwork before him. For a moment, he sat perfectly still, absorbing the memories of what felt like both a dream and a reality. Hokage-sama. Shikamaru's voice broke through his thoughts. You dozed off again. The meeting with the council starts in 5 minutes. Right, Naruto said, rising from his chair with renewed energy. Let's not keep them waiting. As he walked through the corridors of the Hokage Tower, he felt a strange warmth at his core, a connection to experiences that seemed impossible yet undeniably real. Later, he would tell Hinata about his adventure in another world, about the battle for a mystical cup, and about a noble king with whom he had formed an unexpected bond. In a realm beyond time, Artoria Pendragon returned to the endless plane where heroic spirits dwelled between summonings. But something had changed within her, a new perspective, a healing of old wounds. For the first time in countless iterations, she found herself looking forward to whatever might come next rather than backward at what could have been. And somewhere between worlds, the faint echo of a promise remained, that if darkness threatened again, a grand savior would answer the call, bringing with him the indomitable spirit and unwavering compassion that transcended the boundaries between heroes. Chapter 3, What It Means to Save. The mood at the Amiya residence had changed dramatically since the events at Ryuta Temple. What began as a reluctant alliance now felt like something more, a team united by a common purpose. The morning after their confrontation with Daichi, they gathered around Shiro's dining table, maps and notes spread across its surface. We bought time, but that's all, Rin said, circling locations on a city map where magical disturbances had been detected. Daichi's weakened but not defeated. The corruption still spreading through the ley lines. Like an infection, Archer added from his position by the window. For once, he'd fully materialized rather than remaining in spirit form, signaling the gravity of their situation. Those constructs we fought were just symptoms. Naruto nodded, absently rubbing his shoulder where the corruption had struck him. Though healed physically, he could still feel a phantom coldness where the dark energy had tried to invade his chakra network. We need to find his main base, he said. The factory was just an outpost. Saber, sitting across from him, caught his eye. Something had shifted between them since their conversation on the porch. The rigid formality she'd maintained had softened, replaced by something approaching genuine camaraderie. Lancer mentioned Ryuta Temple, she reminded them. But after our confrontation there, Daichi will likely have relocated. Not far though, Hana interjected. She'd been working with Rin on tracking magical signatures, growing more confident with each passing day. The corruption's concentrated in the city's eastern district. He needs proximity to the major ley lines. A knock at the gate interrupted them. Everyone tensed, but Shiro's bounded field hadn't triggered any warnings. I'll check, Naruto offered, creating a shadow clone that went to investigate while the original remained with the group. Moments later, the clone dispelled itself, sending its memories back to Naruto. It's Lancer, he announced, and he's not alone. They moved cautiously to the courtyard. Lancer stood at the gate, his casual posture belying the tension in his eyes. Beside him was a woman none of them had seen before, tall and elegant, with white hair and crimson eyes that marked her as something other than human. My master decided a personal appearance was warranted, Lancer explained with a shrug. Bazette Frogamacrimitz, the woman introduced herself, her accent faintly Irish. We need to talk. After initial hesitation, they invited the newcomers inside. Bazette declined tea, getting straight to business. The corruption spreading through Fuyuki threatens the integrity of the war itself, she stated. The association has finally recognized the danger, which means this is no longer just your problem. The Mages Association sent you. Rin asked skeptically. Not officially, Bazette replied with a thin smile. Let's say I'm pursuing their interests without explicit authorization. And what exactly are those interests? Saber questioned. Preserving the Holy Grail system, Bazette answered. Or destroying it cleanly if preservation is impossible. What we cannot allow is corruption transforming it into something uncontrollable. So the association's finally admitting there's a problem? Naruto raised an eyebrow. Only took them a city full of magical constructs and corrupted energy to notice. Bazette's eyes narrowed as she studied him. You're the anomaly. The Grand Savior class. I've reviewed what little documentation exists about your designation. She paused. You're meant to be the system's failsafe, its last defense against corruption. That's what everyone keeps telling me, Naruto replied. Then why hasn't the corruption been purged? Bazette challenged. Naruto met her gaze without flinching. Because it's not that simple. This isn't just surface-level stuff, it's deep in the foundations of your Grail system. Daichi's tapped into it, made it worse, but he didn't create it. An uncomfortable silence followed his words. The Holy Grail War's corruption wasn't news to those who had participated in previous iterations, but hearing it stated so bluntly was jarring. He's right, Rin finally confirmed. The Grail was tainted during the Third War when Avenger was summoned. What we're seeing now is that corruption being weaponized. Bazette processed this, then nodded briskly. All the more reason to act decisively. I have information about Daichi's true base of operations. She unfolded a small map, placing it on the table. An underground complex beneath the old civic center, built over a convergence of minor ley lines. How did you get this? Shiro asked. The association has been monitoring Shimada for years, Bazette explained. His family's research into spiritual corruption was deemed too dangerous to continue, but he went underground instead of abandoning it. So what's the plan? Naruto asked, examining the map. Full frontal assault. Unfortunately, that may be our only option, Bazette confirmed. My sources indicate he's accelerated his timetable. Whatever he's planning culminates tonight. Tonight? Hana's eyes widened. That's not much time to prepare. It's all we have, Lancer said, spinning his spear restlessly. The magical disturbances are intensifying by the hour. Wait any longer, and we might lose the city. He's right, Archer confirmed, having quietly analyzed the situation. The corruption spreading exponentially. By tomorrow, it could be uncontainable. They spent the next hour formulating a plan. Bazette's intelligence provided crucial details about the complex's layout and defenses. 3 entry points, multiple magical barriers, and likely an army of constructs guarding the inner sanctum. We'll need to split into teams, Rin decided, tracing routes on the map. Hit all 3 entry points simultaneously to divide their defenses. I'll take the main entrance, Naruto volunteered. It'll probably have the heaviest resistance. I'll accompany you, Saber said immediately. Their eyes met briefly, no explanation needed. They worked well together, their fighting styles complementing each other in ways neither had expected. Archer and I will take the eastern approach, Rin stated. It's the most magically fortified, but I can dismantle those barriers. Then Lancer and I will handle the service entrance to the north, Bazette concluded. Minimal magical protection but likely physical traps and guardians. Shiro looked to Hana. We should stay here. Hana interrupted, her expression hardening. Absolutely not. I didn't summon Naruto just to sit on the sidelines when it matters most. I wasn't going to suggest that, Shiro corrected gently. I was thinking we could provide mobile support. Neither of us has a servant's power, but we're both capable of reinforcing the teams that need help most. Hana looked surprised, then smiled. Sorry. I'm just tired of being treated as someone to protect. You've come a long way since I first met you, Naruto observed with pride. Those chakra control exercises really paid off. Don't get cocky, she replied, but her smile widened. I've still got a lot to learn. With roles assigned, they separated briefly to make final preparations. Shiro retreated to his workshop to reinforce weapons for those who might need them. Rin and Hana collaborated on protective talismans. Bazette conferred with Lancer about tactical approaches. Naruto found himself in the courtyard, seated in meditation posture as he communicated with Kurama. The corruptions growing stronger, the Nine Tails observed from within their shared mindscape. I can sense it even from in here. Yeah, Naruto agreed. It feels like fighting Kaguya again, that same wrongness in the air. This will require more than your usual tricks, Kurama warned. Full synchronization at minimum. Possibly 6-path Sage mode if things get really bad. I know, Naruto nodded mentally. I'm saving those for when we need them most. No sense showing all our cards up front. He felt a presence approach and opened his eyes to find Saber watching him curiously. You were communing with your fox spirit, she asked, sitting beside him. Kurama, Naruto corrected. And yeah, discussing strategy. He can sense the corruption spreading too. Saber nodded thoughtfully. In my time, those who communed with spirits were either blessed or feared. Often both. It was the same in my world. Naruto admitted. Jinchuriki, people like me with tailed beasts sealed inside them, weren't exactly popular. People feared what they didn't understand. Yet you became a leader despite this burden, Saber observed. Because of it, not despite it, Naruto corrected. Kurama's power has saved my village countless times. And more importantly, he taught me what it means to change someone's heart through understanding, not force. You speak of him as a friend, Saber noted. Naruto grinned. He'd grumble about that description, but yeah. We've been through too much together to be anything less. A comfortable silence fell between them, both lost in their own thoughts about the coming battle. Artoria, Naruto finally said, using her true name with careful respect, if things go wrong today, they won't, she interrupted firmly. But if they do, he persisted, I want you to know it's been an honor fighting alongside you. Saber's expression softened. The honor has been mutual, Naruto Uzumaki. She hesitated, then added, you've challenged my perspectives in ways I didn't expect. Made me question certainties I've held for centuries. Good, Naruto replied with a small smile. Questioning stuff is healthy. Means you're still growing. Before she could respond, the peaceful moment shattered. A massive surge of magical energy washed over the property, followed immediately by the sound of multiple explosions throughout the city. They were on their feet instantly, racing back inside where the others had already gathered. It's starting, Rin announced grimly, her magical circuits glowing as she sensed the disturbances. Constructs appearing all over the city, dozens, maybe hundreds. Archer materialized his bow, his expression severe. This isn't just an attack. It's a diversion. He's trying to thin our forces, Bazette agreed, strapping combat gloves to her hands. Force us to split up to protect civilians. We can't ignore people in danger, Shiro insisted. Nor can we abandon our mission, Bazette countered. If we don't stop Daichi, far more will die. The dilemma hung heavy in the air until Naruto spoke. I've got this, he said confidently, forming a familiar cross-shaped hand sign. With a surge of chakra, the room filled with 24 perfect copies of himself. My shadow clones can handle civilian evacuation and protection while we stick to the plan. Rin looked skeptical. Can they operate independently at that distance? They're not just illusions, Naruto explained. Each clone has a portion of my chakra and consciousness. They can make decisions and fight effectively on their own. That's incredibly useful, Bazette admitted, clearly reassessing her evaluation of his capabilities. Naruto grinned. You haven't seen anything yet. The clones departed, spreading throughout the city to address the immediate threats while the main team gathered their gear for the primary mission. Through their shared consciousness, Naruto received flashes of information as his clones engaged constructs across Fuyuki. The attacks were widespread but uncoordinated, designed to cause chaos rather than strategic damage. "It's definitely a distraction," he confirmed as they prepared to move out. "The constructs are targeting populated areas but not with any real purpose besides creating panic. All the more reason to strike directly at the source," Saber concluded. They left the Amiya residence together, moving swiftly through streets already filling with smoke and the sounds of distant fighting. Naruto's clones were visible occasionally, golden flashes amid the chaos as they engaged constructs and evacuated civilians. As they approached the civic center, the corruption in the air became palpable, a heaviness that made breathing difficult and caused magical circuits to ache. The normally unremarkable government building was now surrounded by a subtle distortion, like heat waves on asphalt. "The barriers are active," Rin observed. "Multiple layers of protection. Can you breach them?" Bazette asked. "With time," Rin replied. "Already examining the magical formations. But it won't be quiet. Stealth isn't an option anymore," Archer pointed out. "They know we're coming." They split into their planned teams, each approaching from a different direction. Naruto and Saber circled to the main entrance, a once grand doorway now twisted by corruption, black veins spreading through the concrete like invasive roots. "Ready?" Naruto asked, gathering chakra for their initial assault. Saber nodded, materializing her armor and sword. "Always." Their attack was direct and overwhelming. Naruto's Rasengan shattered the outer barrier while Saber's blade cut through the physical door in a single strike. They entered a lobby transformed by corruption, marble floors cracked with pulsing black lines, walls warped into unnatural angles. As expected, resistance was immediate. Constructs emerged from side corridors, more refined than previous versions, their movements fluid and their attacks coordinated. These weren't mindless drones but tactical combatants with distinct fighting styles. They're mimicking actual servants now, Saber realized as she parried an attack from a construct wielding a weapon similar to Lancer's spear. Learning from each encounter. Naruto engaged 3 simultaneously, his shadow clones providing crucial distractions while he analyzed their patterns. They're stronger but still not the real thing. No creativity, no adaptation. They fought their way deeper into the building, following the thickening trails of corruption toward a service stairwell. According to Bazette's intelligence, Daichi's true workshop lay several levels beneath the civic center, built into forgotten maintenance tunnels. As they descended, the corruption intensified. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, and the air grew thick with magical interference. "Naruto," Saber said suddenly, her voice tight with concern. "Look at this." She pointed to what appeared to be a person embedded in the wall, or rather, half absorbed by it. A city worker, judging by the uniform, frozen in an expression of terror as black veins spread across their partially visible face. "Is he?" Naruto began. "Dead, yes," Saber confirmed grimly. "But his spiritual energy is being harvested. Like a battery." Further down the stairwell, they found more victims, maintenance workers, security guards, perhaps even visitors to the civic center before Daichi had completely overtaken it. Dozens of people, partially absorbed into the structure, their life force being systematically drained to power whatever ritual was underway. "This is worse than we thought," Naruto said, rage building inside him. "He's not just corrupting the Grail system, he's sacrificing innocence to do it." Saber's expression hardened. "Then we end this. Now." They continued downward with renewed determination. The constructs grew more numerous and more powerful with each level they descended, but so did their resolve. Naruto began drawing more heavily on his chakra reserves, his attacks becoming increasingly devastating. Saber fought with cold precision, her swordsmanship a blur of lethal efficiency. Through their mental link, Naruto received confirmation that the other teams had successfully breached their entry points and were similarly fighting their way toward the central chamber. Rin and Archer had encountered heavy magical resistance but were methodically dismantling it. Bazette and Lancer had triggered numerous traps but continued advancing with minimal delay. Shiro and Hana were providing support where needed, moving between teams as the situation demanded. After what felt like hours but was likely only minutes of intense combat, Naruto and Saber reached a massive door at the lowest level, a barrier of corrupted metal inscribed with twisted magical formulas. "This is it," Saber said, catching her breath. "The central chamber." Naruto placed his hand on the door, recoiling slightly as the corruption attempted to invade his chakra network. "We can't wait for the others," he decided. "Whatever's happening in there is accelerating. I can feel it." Saber nodded in agreement. Together, then. They combined their attacks, Naruto's Rasengan enhanced with wind chakra while Saber channeled mana into Excalibur. The door didn't just break, it disintegrated under their combined assault, revealing the nightmare beyond. The central chamber was vast, far larger than should have been possible beneath the civic center. Reality itself seemed distorted, the space expanding unnaturally to accommodate Daichi's ambitions. The floor was carved with an enormous magical circle, black energy pulsing along its intricate patterns. Suspended above it was a sphere of pure corruption, like the holy grail they'd glimpsed at Ryuta Temple, but twisted, wrong, pulsating with malevolent purpose. And at the center of it all stood Daichi Shimada, but transformed almost beyond recognition. The black veins had spread across his entire body, his skin turned ashen gray. His eyes glowed with purple fire, and what appeared to be spiritual armor, a corrupted amalgamation of various heroic spirits, had formed around his body. "The Grand Savior arrives," he announced, his voice resonating with unnatural power. "Just in time to witness apotheosis. This ends now, Daichi," Naruto declared, stepping forward. "Whatever you're trying to become, it's not worth the lives you're destroying." Daichi laughed, the sound echoing strangely in the distorted space. "You still don't understand. I'm not destroying lives, I'm transcending the very concept of life and death. Becoming something new." "You're delusional," Saber stated coldly. "You've corrupted yourself beyond redemption." "Redemption?" Daichi scoffed. "Such a limited concept. I've moved beyond such human constraints." He gestured to the pulsing sphere above. "Do you know what this truly is? Not just the Holy Grail, but the wellspring of all the world's evils, the accumulated curses of humanity given form. The Mages Association calls it a corruption, but they're wrong. It's evolution." As he spoke, the other teams arrived, Rin and Archer from one entrance, Bazette and Lancer from another. Shiro and Hana appeared moments later, all looking battle-worn but determined. "Ah, the gang's all here," Daichi observed with mock pleasantry. "Good. More witnesses to the birth of a new era. More people to stop you, you mean," Rin shot back, magical energy crackling around her hands. Daichi's expression darkened. "You're too late. The process is already," he never finished the sentence. With blinding speed, Lancer hurled his spear directly at Daichi's heart, a strike that should have been fatal. Instead, the weapon stopped inches from its target, suspended in midair by the dense corruption surrounding him. "Impatient as always, see you Chulain," Daichi chided, gesturing casually. The spear reversed direction, flying back toward its owner with doubled force. Lancer caught it, but the impact drove him back several steps. "Worth a try," he shrugged, though his expression had grown more serious. "Enough talking," Archer declared, materializing his bow and firing 3 arrows simultaneously, not at Daichi but at specific points in the magical circle surrounding him. The arrows struck true, disrupting the flow of energy. Daichi's expression contorted with rage. "You dare," he snarled, his human affectations dropping away. "You cannot stop what is already in motion." With a wave of his hand, dozens of constructs materialized around the chamber, more perfect than any they'd faced before, each mimicking a different heroic spirit's abilities. Keep him busy, Naruto told the others, his eyes never leaving Daichi. Saber and I will handle the main threat. The chamber erupted into chaos. Rin and Archer engaged multiple constructs, her magecraft complementing his archery with practiced precision. Bazette and Lancer fought back-to-back, her reinforced strikes and his spearwork creating a zone of destruction around them. Shiro and Hana moved strategically, providing support where needed, him with reinforced weapons, her with the enhanced magic Naruto had taught her. Meanwhile, Naruto and Saber advanced toward Daichi, fighting through waves of corruption that took physical form to bar their path. You really think you can stop me? Daichi taunted, rising into the air as power continued to flow into him from the corrupted Grail. I've absorbed the essence of fallen servants from multiple wars. Their power is mine to command. To demonstrate, he gestured sharply. The corruption around him coalesced into recognizable noble phantasms, distorted versions of legendary weapons including what appeared to be Gibalg and a corrupted Excalibur. Stealing power doesn't make it yours, Naruto replied, his hands forming seals as he spoke. Those abilities came from heroes who earned them through their lives and deeds. You're just a thief wearing stolen clothes. Daichi's face contorted with fury. You know nothing. I've surpassed the limitations of heroes. I am becoming a god. He attacked with incredible speed, corrupted weapons striking from multiple angles simultaneously. Saber met the onslaught with perfect technique, Excalibur's golden light pushing back the corruption with each clash. Naruto complemented her defense with shadow clones and precisely timed Rasengan strikes, targeting openings in Daichi's guard. Despite their coordination, Daichi's power was immense. Corruption flowed into him continuously from the suspended Grail, healing injuries and enhancing his abilities mid-battle. For every successful strike they landed, he seemed to grow stronger, more dangerous. We need to cut him off from the Grail, Saber called to Naruto as they momentarily disengaged to reassess. Easier said than done, Naruto replied, eyeing the complex magical connections between Daichi and the corrupted sphere. Those links are deeply embedded. Across the chamber, their allies fought with increasing desperation. Archer had taken a serious wound but continued firing, his projections becoming more elaborate as he tapped deeper into his reality marble. Rin's jewels were nearly depleted, forcing her to rely on more fundamental magecraft. Lancer moved like a crimson blur, his legendary speed the only thing keeping multiple constructs at bay. Bazette's reinforced combat style had devastated dozens of enemies, but even her stamina had limits. Most concerning were Shiro and Hana. Though they'd grown tremendously as fighters, they lacked the supernatural endurance of servants. Fatigue was showing in their movements, making them increasingly vulnerable. Naruto saw a construct target Hana while her attention was elsewhere. Without hesitation, he teleported across the chamber, intercepting the attack meant for his master. The corrupted blade sliced deeply into his side. Before he destroyed the construct with a point-blank Rasengan. Naruto! Hana cried, horrified by the severity of the wound. I'm fine, he assured her, though blood soaked his orange jacket. But you need to fall back. Help Rin disrupt the outer circle, it's our best chance to weaken Daichi's connection to the Grail. Reluctantly, Hana nodded, moving to join Rin while Naruto teleported back to Saber's side. You're injured, she observed, concern evident despite her focused expression. It'll heal, Naruto replied, though the wound burned with corruption trying to spread into his system. But we need to end this quickly. Everyone's reaching their limits. Saber nodded grimly. I've been analyzing his defenses. The corruption is strongest directly around him, but there's a pattern to its flow, moments of vulnerability when he channels it into attacks. So we need to provoke a major offensive, Naruto concluded, understanding her strategy immediately. Make him commit so much corruption to attacking that his defenses thin. Precisely, Saber confirmed. Naruto grinned despite the dire situation. I'm pretty good at being provocative. He formed a familiar cross-shaped seal, but this time channeled far more chakra than before. The chamber filled with not dozens but hundreds of shadow clones, surrounding Daichi from every angle. "That the best you can do," every Naruto called simultaneously. "All that power, and you're still just copying other people's abilities. Got anything original?" The taunt struck home. Daichi's eyes blazed with fury as he summoned a storm of corrupted energy, lashing out at the clones in every direction. The magical onslaught was devastating, clones dispelling by the dozen, but it achieved exactly what they'd intended. Daichi's personal defenses thinned as he channeled more power into his attack. "Now!" Saber shouted, charging forward with Excalibur blazing golden. Naruto dismissed his remaining clones and focused his chakra, golden energy enveloping his body as he partially accessed Kurama's power. Together, they struck Daichi from opposite sides, Saber's holy sword cutting through corruption while Naruto's chakra-enhanced fist connected solidly with Daichi's physical form. The combined attack sent Daichi crashing into one of the chamber's walls, momentarily disrupting his connection to the Grail. The sphere of corruption pulsed erratically, as if searching for its conduit. "It's working!" Shiro called from across the chamber, where he and the others had made progress dismantling the outer ritual circle. Daichi rose slowly from the impact crater, black blood flowing from multiple wounds. His expression had changed, the arrogance replaced by cold calculation. "Impressive," he acknowledged. "But futile. You've only accelerated my timetable." Before they could press their advantage, Daichi made a gesture they hadn't seen before, not an attack but something more fundamental. The corrupted Grail responded, its surface rippling as something began to emerge from within. "What is he doing?" Bazette demanded, fighting her way closer. Calling forth the entity within the Grail, Rin realized, her face pale with recognition. "All the world's evils, and Gramenyu." From the corrupted sphere emerged a figure, humanoid but wrong, its body composed of writhing darkness and its features a void where a face should be. It moved with liquid grace, flowing down to join with Daichi's already corrupted form. "Yes," Daichi breathed as the entity merged with him. The true power of the Grail, not wish fulfillment but embodiment of humanity's darkest nature. The transformation was immediate and horrifying. Daichi's form expanded, growing to nearly twice his original size. The corruption that had spread across his skin became armor of living darkness. His face elongated into something no longer human, eyes multiplying across his features, each burning with malevolent purpose. "This is what I sought," his voice resonated, now layered with countless others. Not merely to control the corruption but to become one with it. To embody humanity's collective evil and wield it as power. The pressure in the chamber intensified, reality itself seeming to warp around Daichi's transformed body. Constructs throughout the room dissolved, their essence flowing back into him. The very air became difficult to breathe, heavy with malice. "We need to retreat," Archer called, recognizing the hopelessness of their position. "Regroup and find another approach." "There won't be another chance," Bazette countered, though even she had backed away from the overwhelming presence Daichi now exuded. "If he leaves this chamber in that form." Naruto stood his ground, assessing their dire situation. The wound in his side burned with corruption, his allies were exhausted, and the enemy had transformed into something far beyond their expectations. Conventional tactics would no longer suffice. "Saber," he said quietly. "I need to access my full power. Can you buy me 30 seconds? Understanding immediately, Saber nodded. "Consider it done." She turned to the others. "Everyone, to me. We need to contain him momentarily." With remarkable coordination, the scattered fighters converged. Saber took point, Excalibur channeling more power than she'd previously revealed. Archer provided covering fire from an elevated position, his projected weapons growing more conceptually powerful. Lancer attacked from multiple angles, his speed creating openings for Bazette's reinforced strikes. Rin and Hana combined their magical expertise, channeling power through Shiro's reinforced weapons to create a temporary barrier around Daichi's transformed body. Their combined assault wasn't meant to defeat him, merely to contain and distract. And it worked, drawing Daichi's attention and fury while Naruto knelt behind them, entering a deeper meditative state than he'd attempted since arriving in this world. Within his mindscape, Naruto stood before Kurama, the massive fox, regarding him seriously. "This will drain most of our chakra," Kurama warned. "In this world, without natural energy to replenish us, we'll be vulnerable afterward." "We don't have a choice," Naruto replied. "That thing out there isn't just Daichi anymore. It's a fragment of some ancient evil, and it's growing stronger by the second." Kurama nodded his massive head. "Then let's not hold back. Full synchronization in 6-path sage mode." Naruto closed his eyes, feeling Kurama's chakra flow through him completely. Simultaneously, he accessed the 6 paths power granted to him long ago, the ultimate combination of natural energy, physical and spiritual power, and the unique gifts of the Sage of 6 Paths. In the physical world, his transformation was dramatic. Golden chakra erupted around him, taking the form of the Nine Tails. His appearance shifted, eyes changing to cross-shaped pupils, skin glowing with internal light, truth-seeking orbs materializing behind him. The wound in his side healed instantly, corruption purged by the overwhelming positive energy flowing through his chakra network. The others sensed the change immediately. Saber glanced back, momentarily awestruck by Naruto's transformed state. Even Daichi paused his onslaught, sensing a fundamental shift in the battlefield's dynamics. "What is this?" he demanded, multiple voices overlapping in his distorted speech. "What are you?" Naruto rose to his feet, the golden aura around him pushing back the corruption in the surrounding air. "I am Naruto Uzumaki, 7th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village." His voice remained calm but carried easily through the chamber. "And you're right about one thing, Daichi, I am a failsafe. But not just for the Grail system. For situations exactly like this." He moved forward, each step leaving glowing footprints that purified the corruption beneath them. The others instinctively gave him space, recognizing power that exceeded even servant capabilities. "Stay back," Naruto instructed them. "This might get intense." Daichi attacked with every weapon in his arsenal, corrupted noble phantasms, waves of malevolent energy. Physical strikes enhanced by supernatural strength. Naruto met each attack not with equal force but with something fundamentally different, a power based on connection rather than dominance, creation rather than destruction. Where corruption touched his chakra cloak, it didn't corrupt but was instead purified, converted back to natural spiritual energy. The truth-seeking orbs neutralized conceptual attacks, reducing them to their component energy. His physical movements carried purification with them, each strike not just damaging Daichi's form but cleansing portions of the corruption that composed it. "Impossible!" Daichi roared, recoiling as parts of his corrupted form reverted to normal spiritual energy. "The corruption cannot be purified. It is humanity's collective evil made manifest." "Nothing's beyond redemption," Naruto replied, continuing his advance. "Not even this." Realizing direct confrontation was failing, Daichi changed tactics. He reached out with tendrils of corruption toward the weakened fighters behind Naruto, specifically targeting Hana. "Your master dies first, savior," he declared. Naruto sensed the attack but couldn't reach Hana in time. Before he could teleport to her side, Saber was there, Excalibur raised in defense. The corrupted tendril struck her instead, wrapping around her armor and beginning to corrode it. "Saber," multiple voices cried out simultaneously. Rather than retreat, Saber did something unexpected. She drove Excalibur directly into the heart of the corruption connecting Daichi to the tendril, her holy sword blazing with unprecedented light. "Now, Naruto," she called, her voice strained but determined. "While I have him anchored." Understanding instantly, Naruto focused his enhanced senses on Daichi's true form beneath the layers of corruption. At his core remained the human magus who had started all this, the anchor point where Ingram Mania had attached itself. "Everyone, get back!" Naruto warned as he formed his most powerful technique, a Raisin Shuriken enhanced with 6 paths chakra, designed not to destroy but to separate and purify. The others retreated, pulling Saber with them as she withdrew her sword from the corruption. Only Daichi remained, momentarily confused by their tactical shift. "What are you?" he began. Naruto threw the enhanced Raisin Shuriken with perfect accuracy. It struck Daichi's chest, but instead of exploding outward as it typically would, it expanded inward, creating a vortex of purifying energy that worked from Daichi's core outward. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Daichi screamed, not in pain but in existential terror as the corruption that had become part of his identity was systematically separated from his being. Layer by layer, the darkness was pulled away, purified, and returned to the natural flow of spiritual energy. And oh, the voices within him howled. "We are one. We cannot be divided." "You were never meant to be one," Naruto replied, maintaining the technique's focus despite the enormous drain on his reserves. "That's where you went wrong, Daichi. You sought power through corruption instead of strength through connection." The process continued for what felt like an eternity but was likely only minutes. The others watched in amazement as Daichi's transformed body was systematically returned to its human state, the corruption extracted and purified. The entity that had emerged from the Grail, Ingram Mania, fought desperately to maintain its grip, but against the purifying power of 6 paths Sage Mode, it couldn't hold. Finally, with a sound like reality tearing, the last connection severed. Daichi collapsed to the ground, human once more, battered, exhausted, but purged of corruption. Separate from him, a writhing mass of darkness tried to retreat toward the suspended Grail, seeking to re-enter its sanctuary. "Not this time," Naruto declared, forming a final seal. Sealing technique, purification barrier. Golden chains of chakra erupted from the ground, surrounding the entity before it could escape. The chains tightened, not destroying the darkness but containing it, compressing it until it could no longer maintain coherence. With a final, silent implosion, Ingram Mania's manifestation dispersed, not destroyed, for such fundamental forces cannot be truly eliminated, but purified and returned to the natural cycle of spiritual energy from which it had been artificially extracted. The corrupted Grail pulsed erratically, its connection to Ingram Mania severed. Black veins across its surface began to recede, revealing glimpses of its true nature beneath, a vessel of pure magical potential, neither good nor evil but simply power awaiting purpose. Naruto fell to one knee, the golden aura around him flickering as his chakra reserves approached depletion. 6 paths mode faded, leaving him in his normal state, exhausted but satisfied. The others approached cautiously, still processing what they'd witnessed. "Is it over?" Shiro asked, helping Saber remain standing after her own exertions. "Almost," Naruto replied, gesturing toward the Grail, which continued to pulse with unstable energy. "The system's destabilizing. Without corruption or proper completion of the war, it doesn't know what to do. It needs to be properly dismissed," Rin concluded, examining the fluctuating patterns of energy. "Or it could collapse catastrophically. How do we do that?" Hana asked, helping Naruto to his feet. "The Grand Savior," Bazette said suddenly, her expression thoughtful. "That's the true purpose of your class, not just to fight corruption but to reset the system when necessary." Naruto nodded wearily. "I think you're right." He looked to Saber, their eyes meeting with unspoken understanding. "But I'll need help." Without hesitation, Saber moved to his side, offering her shoulder for support. Together, they approached the hovering Grail, which had now shed most of its corruption, revealing a sphere of golden light pulsing with untapped potential. "Everyone else should get clear," Naruto advised. "This might get complicated." Though reluctant, the others retreated to the chamber's entrance, giving Naruto and Saber space to work. Only Hana remained relatively close, unwilling to abandon her servant completely. At the center of the chamber, Naruto and Saber stood before the destabilizing Grail. Its energy fluctuated wildly, reality rippling around it as the system struggled to find equilibrium. "What now?" Saber asked quietly. "We complete the cycle," Naruto replied. "The war never reached its proper conclusion, no winner, no wish granted. The system needs closure. And how do we provide that?" Naruto smiled tiredly. "We give it what it wants, a proper wish. Something worthy of its power." He extended his hand toward the Grail, and after a moment's hesitation, Saber placed her hand alongside his. Together, they touched the surface of the golden sphere. The connection was immediate and overwhelming, a flood of pure magical potential flowing into them, seeking purpose, seeking direction. Naruto felt his consciousness expand, touching the very foundations of the Grail system. Beside him, Saber experienced the same, their minds temporarily linked through the Grail's power. In that moment of connection, they understood each other completely. Naruto saw Artoria's life in its entirety, her childhood, her years as king, her regrets and triumphs, her deepest desires and fears. Saber, in turn, witnessed Naruto's journey from despised orphan to respected Hokage, his struggles and growth, the bonds he'd formed and the family he'd created. Through this perfect understanding came clarity about what the Grail truly needed, not a selfish wish for personal gain, but something that honored the system's original purpose while acknowledging its flaws. "I wish," they spoke in unison, their voices resonating with the Grail's power, "for this system to be remade. Not destroyed, but reborn without corruption, serving its true purpose, to connect worlds and heroes when needed, but never again to be manipulated for selfish ends." The Grail pulsed once, twice, then began to glow with increasing brightness. The energy within it reorganized, patterns shifting from chaos to harmony. The chamber around them started to dissolve, reality reasserting itself as the distortions Daichi had created collapsed. "It's working," Hana called from where she watched. "The corruption throughout the building is disappearing." Indeed, the black veins that had spread throughout the structure were receding, leaving purified stone and metal in their wake. The victims embedded in the walls were gently released, their bodies respectfully laid to rest rather than simply dropped. As the Grail continued its transformation, Naruto and Saber found themselves floating in a space between realities, still physically present in the chamber but mentally connected to something greater. "The system is resetting," a voice spoke from within the Grail, not Ingram Mania this time, but something older, more fundamental. "The Holy Grail War as it was conceived will end. A new framework will emerge, one that honors the connection between worlds without demanding blood sacrifice." "And what of those currently summoned?" Saber asked, thinking not just of herself but of all servants currently manifested. "Your contracts will conclude naturally," the voice explained. "You will return to the throne of heroes with your experiences intact. The Grand Savior will return to his world, his purpose fulfilled." The implications weren't lost on either of them. Their time together, the bond they'd formed, was coming to its natural end. The space around them began to solidify, returning them to the physical chamber. The Grail, now purified completely, hovered before them, a perfect sphere of golden light without corruption or distortion. "One boon remains," the Grail's voice offered. "A single wish, freely given, to honor your service in my restoration." Naruto and Saber exchanged glances, a lifetime of understanding compressed into a single look. "What do you wish for, Artoria?" Naruto asked gently. "After everything, has your desire changed?" Saber was silent for a long moment, considering deeply. "It has," she finally admitted. "I no longer wish to undo my past. My kingdom fell, yes, but perhaps it was meant to. Perhaps its legacy was meant to inspire rather than endure." "So what would you wish for now?" Naruto pressed. A small smile touched Saber's lips, more genuine than any she'd shown before. "Peace," she said simply. "Not just for my kingdom's memory, but for myself. Acceptance of what was, what is, and what will be." Naruto nodded, understanding completely. "That's a wish I can get behind." Together, they addressed the Grail one final time. We wish for peace, not just for ourselves, but for all connected to this system. Let the Holy Grail bring understanding rather than conflict, healing rather than harm. The Grail pulsed with approval, its light spreading outward in gentle waves. Throughout Fuyuki City, the remaining corruption dissolved completely. Constructs ceased their attacks and peacefully dissipated. The very air seemed cleaner, lighter. In the chamber, the others felt the effect immediately, wounds beginning to heal, exhaustion easing, spirits lifting. Even Daichi, still unconscious but now fully human, seemed to breathe more easily. It is done, the Grail announced, its form beginning to fade. The wish is granted. The system is renewed. My purpose is fulfilled. With those words, the Grail disappeared entirely, not destroyed but transformed into something more fundamental, its power dispersed throughout the world as a subtle influence for connection rather than conflict. As its presence faded, reality reasserted itself fully. The distorted chamber collapsed inward, reverting to its original dimensions. The group found themselves in what was simply a maintenance area beneath the civic center, all traces of Daichi's elaborate workshop gone. We should leave, Bazette advised, examining their surroundings. This structure may not be stable anymore. No one argued. They made their way upward through now normal stairwells and corridors, eventually emerging into the night air. The city around them was quieting, the chaos of the construct's attacks replaced by the more ordinary sounds of emergency services responding to the aftermath. My clones are helping with rescue efforts, Naruto explained, sensing their activities throughout Fuyuki. No fatalities from the attacks, thankfully. Mostly property damage and minor injuries. What happens now? Shiro asked the question on everyone's mind. The Holy Grail War as we knew it is over, Rin answered, her magical senses confirming what the Grail had told them. The system has been fundamentally changed. And servants? Hana asked quietly, looking at Naruto. We'll return to where we belong, he replied gently. Not immediately, but soon. The contracts will dissolve naturally without the Grail sustaining them. The implications settled over the group. After everything they'd experienced together, their time was limited. I should report to the association, Bazette decided, breaking the somber mood. They'll want to know what happened here, though I doubt they'll believe most of it. Tell them whatever version makes them happy, Lancer suggested with a roguish grin. They prefer comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths anyway. Bazette didn't disagree. After brief farewells, she and Lancer departed, leaving the core group, Naruto, Saber, Hana, Shiro, Rin, and Archer, standing together in the quiet street. Let's go home, Shiro suggested simply. No one objected. They made their way back to the Amiya residence in companionable silence, each processing the night's events in their own way. Upon arrival, Shiro immediately went to prepare food, his way of creating normalcy after chaos. Rin assisted him, while Archer maintained a watchful presence from the roof, old habits not easily abandoned. Hana found herself in the courtyard with Naruto, both seated on the porch watching the stars emerge as the sky cleared. How much time do we have? She asked directly, her voice steady despite the emotion behind the question. Hard to say, Naruto admitted. Without the Grail actively sustaining the summoning, maybe a day or two. I can already feel the connection starting to thin. Hana nodded, having sensed the same through their master-servant bond. I want to thank you, she said after a moment. Not just for saving me or the city or the Grail, but for teaching me what strength really means. You always had it in you, Naruto replied with a warm smile. You just needed someone to believe in you until you believed in yourself. Will you? She hesitated. Will you remember me? When you go back? Of course I will, Naruto assured her without hesitation. That's not even a question. Bonds like these don't just disappear, even across worlds. Before Hana could respond, Saber approached from the house, carrying tea for all three of them. Shiro insisted, she explained, setting down the tray. Apparently, we all need proper hydration after magical exertion. He's not wrong, Naruto laughed, accepting a cup gratefully. Though I'd kill for some ramen right now. I believe he's preparing that as well, Saber replied with a small smile, joining them on the porch. A comfortable silence fell as they sipped their tea, the simple normalcy of the moment a precious contrast to the reality-bending conflict they'd just survived. What will you do now, Hannah? Saber eventually asked. When? She didn't finish the thought, but her meaning was clear. I haven't decided yet, Hannah admitted. My family's estate needs to be properly settled. After that, maybe I'll travel for a while. Learn more about different magical traditions. She glanced at Naruto. Try to integrate some of what you've taught me with traditional magecraft. You could stay in Fuyuki, Naruto suggested. Shiro and Rin would be good friends to have. People who understand what you've been through. Hannah considered this. Perhaps. At least for a while. Their conversation continued as night deepened, touching on lighter topics, memories shared, observations about their different worlds, plans and possibilities. None mentioned the inevitable separation directly, but it hovered in the background of every exchange. Inside, Shiro eventually announced that dinner was ready. They joined the others around the table, the mood surprisingly light given all they'd experienced. Stories were shared, even laughter, the natural response of people who had faced death together and emerged victorious. Later, as everyone prepared for well-earned rest, Naruto found himself alone with Saber in the dojo. Both had been restless, drawn to the training space by shared instinct. Can't sleep either, he asked, finding her practicing forms with Excalibur, the invisible sword cutting perfect arcs through the night air. My body doesn't require sleep, she reminded him, though she paused her practice. But no, my mind is unsettled. That makes two of us, Naruto admitted, sitting cross-legged on the dojo floor. Too much to process, I guess. Saber nodded, dismissing her sword and sitting across from him. When we touched the Grail together, she began, then hesitated. I saw everything. Yeah, Naruto acknowledged. Same here. Pretty intense, huh? That's one word for it, Saber agreed with uncharacteristic understatement. I've never experienced anything like it, to know someone so completely in an instant. It's like we skipped years of friendship and went straight to the deep stuff, Naruto observed. Weird, but not in a bad way. No, not bad at all, Saber agreed softly. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Naruto spoke again. Your wish changed, he noted. You didn't want to undo your reign anymore. Saber nodded slowly. Seeing your life, your approach to leadership, to mistakes, to growth, it shifted something fundamental in my perspective. You faced failure and pain but never sought to erase it, only to learn and move forward. She met his eyes directly. I envied that. And then I realized I could choose it for myself. That's the thing about being human, Naruto said with a gentle smile. We always have choices. Maybe not about what happens to us, but definitely about how we respond to it. Human, Saber repeated the word thoughtfully. I spent so long trying to be more, the perfect king, beyond human frailty or emotion. Perhaps that was my greatest mistake. Being human isn't a weakness, Naruto told her. It's our superpower. Connecting, growing, changing, that's where real strength comes from. They talked through the night, sharing perspectives on leadership, duty, family, and purpose. The connection they'd glimpsed through the Grail deepened naturally, no longer magically imposed but freely chosen. As dawn approached, they both felt it, a subtle shift in their spiritual essence, the first clear sign that their time was growing short. It's starting, Saber observed, looking at her hand which had momentarily flickered with golden particles. Yeah, Naruto confirmed, feeling the connection to his world strengthening as the one to this world began to fade. Probably got a few hours left, maybe less. They roused the household, wanting to ensure proper farewells. Rin confirmed their assessment. The magical energy sustaining servants was dissipating faster than expected. By noon, I think, she estimated after examining both Naruto and Saber. The system is returning to equilibrium. They gathered in the courtyard under the morning sun, the mood solemn but not despairing. This wasn't an unexpected tragedy but the natural conclusion to an extraordinary chapter. I wish we had more time, Shiro said, expressing what everyone felt. We had exactly the time we needed, Saber replied with newfound serenity. No more, no less. Naruto nodded in agreement. That's how it works. We came here for a reason, we did what needed doing, and now we go home. The next few hours were spent in simple companionship, sharing a final meal, exchanging stories, Naruto even teaching Hana a few last techniques she could practice after he was gone. As noon approached, the signs became impossible to ignore. Both servants were visibly fading, golden particles occasionally floating from their forms. They returned to the courtyard for final farewells. Archer had already disappeared, having said his goodbyes to Rin privately. Only Naruto and Saber remained of the servants who had fought together. I'm not great with goodbyes, Naruto admitted as they formed a circle. So I'll keep it simple. Thank you, all of you. For your trust, your courage, your friendship. I couldn't have asked for better allies in this crazy adventure. Will you remember us? Shiro asked. Where you're going? Every detail, Naruto promised. Some experiences change you forever. This is definitely one of those. Saber stepped forward, addressing each person individually. To Rin, she offered respect for her intelligence and dedication. To Shiro, encouragement to continue his path while remembering to value himself. When she reached Hana, her expression softened. Take care of yourself, she told the young magus. You've shown remarkable growth in such a short time. Continue that journey. I will, Hana promised, tears in her eyes but her voice steady. Thank you for everything, both of you. She turned to Naruto, struggling to find words adequate for the moment. Hey, he said gently. No sad faces, okay? This isn't an ending, it's a transition. The bonds we form don't disappear just because we're in different worlds. Hana nodded, managing a smile through her tears. She reached out, taking his hand one last time. Thank you, Naruto. For saving me, for teaching me, for believing in me. That's what friends do, he replied simply. And we're definitely friends. Their forms were fading more rapidly now, golden light surrounding both servants as the natural order reasserted itself. It's time, Saber observed calmly. Naruto turned to her, offering his hand. After a moment's hesitation, she took it, their fingers intertwining as they prepared to return to their respective realities. So, King of Knights, Naruto said with a warm smile. Think we'll meet again someday? I would count on it, Hokage of the Hidden Leaf, Saber replied, a genuine smile transforming her face. Some bonds transcend time and space. Together they faced their friends one last time, their forms now more light than substance. Live well, Saber told them. Find your own paths to peace. And don't forget to look out for each other, Naruto added. That's what really matters in the end, the connections we make, the people we love. With those words, the golden light intensified, enveloping them completely. For a brief moment, their outlines remained visible within the radiance, hands still joined, faces peaceful. Then, with a final pulse of gentle energy, they disappeared completely, returning to their rightful places in the vast tapestry of worlds and heroes. In the courtyard, the remaining friends stood in silence, feeling both loss and completion. The Holy Grail War was over, transformed into something new. The corruption that had threatened to consume everything had been purified. And though their servants had returned home, the impact of their presence remained, in lessons learned, perspectives changed, and hearts opened. Hana wiped her tears, looking at the space where Naruto had stood. The command seals on her hand had faded to faint scars, not disappearing completely but transforming into a reminder of what they'd shared. "What now?" she asked quietly. "We continue," Rin answered simply. "We honor what they taught us by living well." Shiro nodded in agreement. "And we remember. Not with sadness, but with gratitude." As they turned to re-enter the house, a gentle breeze stirred the courtyard, carrying cherry blossoms from a neighboring garden. For just a moment, Hannah thought she felt a familiar warmth, like golden chakra briefly touching her spirit. She smiled, understanding the message without words. Some bonds truly did transcend worlds. In Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki opened his eyes at his desk, returning to the exact moment he'd left, as if no time had passed at all. Yet the memories remained vivid, the experiences real, the growth genuine. He smiled, feeling somehow both exhausted and energized. "Welcome back," came Shikamaru's voice from the doorway. "You dozed off for a second there." "Did I?" Naruto replied with a knowing smile. "Felt like a lifetime." Later that evening, as he told Hinata about his extraordinary journey, she listened with wonder but not disbelief. She had witnessed enough impossibilities in their life together to recognize truth when she heard it. "This Saber," she said thoughtfully when he finished his tale. "She sounds remarkable." She was, Naruto confirmed. "A true hero, though she wouldn't have called herself that. She taught me as much as I taught her." "I'm glad you found each other, then," Hinata said with characteristic generosity. "Even if it was brief." Naruto embraced his wife, infinitely grateful for her understanding heart. "The strangest part," he admitted, "is that it feels like it's not really over. Like somehow, someday, our paths might cross again." In the endless realm where heroic spirits dwelled between summonings, Artoria Pendragon returned with new perspective. The burden she had carried for centuries, the desperate desire to undo her past, had transformed into something lighter, something hopeful. She had glimpsed another way to lead, another way to live, another way to understand her own legacy. And deep within, she carried the certainty that Naruto had been right. Some connections transcended the boundaries between worlds. Some friends, once found, were never truly lost again. The Holy Grail War had ended, but the bonds formed within it remained, golden threads connecting lives across the infinite tapestry of existence, a testament to what it truly means to save and be saved. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.